All right, welcome, gentlemen. Now, let me introduce my. Obviously, we all know my co-host, Coach Depascale, but I got a great guest here today, and my title on it is incorrect. Of course, it's not the first time that I've gotten something incorrect, but 9-time state champion chip coach, six when he was the OC at Glen Rock, 3 as a head coach at Riverdale. That's just a part of the fun we're going to have. He's beaten me quite a few times, but luckily I've been able to be on his side and win one. So without further ado, we got on Coach DJ Nimphius. Great to have you on, Coach.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. This is interesting. I had to scout you guys out first. Like, what was I walking into? So I've walked into it.
Yeah, 2 characters is what.
Yeah, a lot of guys do that. We don't really give much of a wording. It's kind of just like, hey, this is what we're doing, talking some ball, and then we just kind of go. So it works out.
But before we start about onto a lot of things, because we're excited to have you on, and me and Derek are long-winded. So if you've listened to anything, we're long-winded human beings. But one of the things, Derek, that when I coached with DJ, especially the second time, the first time I coached with him, he was getting it together, and I remember we sometimes we had guys catching the ball with their head instead of their hands. But we won amazingly. We won quite a few games that year. We won 4 or 5 games that year, and but when I came back with him the second time, and we won the state championship. It was a great year. But one of the funniest things of all time was I was a young coach at the time, and I used to like to get to practice right around 5 minutes before it all started. Okay. And sometimes as close to 3 minutes.
Wow.
Okay. And DJ would stand there with the kids would get down there at 5 minutes too. That's when he wanted them down there. He would stand there and he would see my truck at the time pull up. And as soon as he see my truck pull up, he blew. It didn't matter if I was there 8 minutes early, 10 minutes early, or 1 minute early.
Time to go.
As soon as that truck pulled up, and he just liked to see me running down that long-winded road all the way to get to practice.
Come on, man! If you're not 10 minutes early, you're late. What are you doing?
Well, I got a guy that we have on our staff now. He's a great guy, but he comes from another district. And when we get to like daylight savings, we practice on what is now the field hockey field. They move to that grass portion, and this guy gets to practice kind of late. And I had a kid on our squad, Ryan Gillies, the younger of the Gillies brothers, and he would just watch and wait for this guy to get there. And he knew it drove me crazy because we'd already be full blown in practice. And then he would just quietly nudge me and say, "Here, he's here."
Listen,
I know he's here, Ryan. He goes, just thought I'd kind of give you a heads up.
I get it. I used to have the same thing at Butler my senior year. My offensive defensive coordinator my last couple of years was a car guy, and he would show up, and the second we saw his car pull in the parking lot, he'd give the little elbow and be like, "Coach is here." And it would just, here we go. He would start before he even hit the track. It would be, what are we doing? Okay, here we go. So I think every staff's got one, Coach.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And
well, I'm glad that you've changed, by the way.
Me
or him? Me, you mean?
No, I said you, my friend, because believe me, I now, you know what I mean? I'm that guy. I mean, look, it's still close to 8 minutes, 10 minutes sometimes, but, he's got the excuse of he has his son with him now, right? So I give him that a little bit, but he definitely has improved on that, Coach. So
after coaching with as an assistant with DJ and then coaching with Brian Dunn, they worked that almost that whole entire thing out of me. They worked it out of me very, very efficiently. Because when I was at Saddlebrook as an assistant, and I mean I could do stories about Saddlebrook, and me and DJ used to laugh. His favorite thing used to be like tell me Saddlebrook stories, because these stories when I was an assistant my first 2 years, I mean I have more stories from those 2 years than of anything else. But when we were at Saddlebrook, coaches came and gone whatever they wanted. Like if it was a defensive day, the defensive guys were there, but they weren't at practice on offensive day. So it was a whole different a realm. It was amazing because Darren White was he kind of somehow assembled it all together. I guess he's
Yeah, he
kind of a
organized it.
master at all that because he was able to make it all work. But man, there was a lot of conflicting parties in that system.
Well, if you ever wanted a good interview, you should interview Mark Hannon, who played for us at Glen Rock. And the way it was set up at Glen Rock, we practiced at elementary school. You guys know that, Sal. Brooke used to come watch our practices. So we would practice down there, and Jeff Fresh, who was a really good defense coordinator, was coming from another district. And of course, Al was involved in everything, Coach Diet. So Coach Diet would be, I guess it'd be like a Tuesday. He'd be doing all the install on defense. And we'd come down, we'd get offense in right away as much as we could. It might be a heavier defense day. We just ride our bicycles down there and go get offense in as much as we could. And then Al would get there because he'd get there late, and he would start practice on defense. And we'd go for about 45 minutes. And then Coach Kresh would come out of his car, and Hannon would just say, "Oh, no." And they would meet at the middle of the field. And the first thing you would hear was Jeff say to Al, "That's not what we agreed we were going to do."
Yeah.
And it would start all over again. We'd be there. It was like Rip Van Winkle. I'd be sleeping under a tree because I had to run the scout offense. So if if Coach Diet and Coach Kress said we weren't done, we're not done. The car lights would come on. It was a disaster. By 4-hour practices, I don't miss that.
Oh my God. That's and Crash, it's so funny because I remember Crash back in the day when I want to dive into, because I know Coach Nimphius from when he was at Walkill Valley, right. And he had this great. The kid ended up becoming a decathlete, but the first time you were already coaching football, I'm sure, but yes. First time I met him was he'd be like sprinting back across the field. He had this great he was a half mile. He did everything, that kid, like long jump, everything, and the kid ended up being like a national level. Maybe went to the Olympic. He
had Olympic trials when he was a junior college, Paul Fox, and he actually had, 2 years out of college, he had the best decathlon score in the entire world.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
this guy was an unbelievable.
What year was that?
89. He graduated. In fact, if you ever run into Dave,
I don't usually ask years because I don't want to date anybody. But
if you ever run into Dave Frasier, the AD at Rutherford, apparently is now the most important guy in northern New Jersey. All right. Ask Dave.
Is that a Darren Cooper thing?
No, I'm just going to continue. Anyway,
I got it.
So anyway, Dave actually lost in a long jump to Fox in the sectionals at New Milford. Remember that, Dave, when we couldn't wear spikes?
Yep.
But I never let him live that down. Then Dave goes on to triple jump like 53 feet at Manhattan.
I remember that. He was a great athlete.
Yeah. We lost to him by 3 in that sectional meet. It was his senior year. Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Wow.
I mean, the amazing part is that Walkill Valley had a chance to win that sectional meet. That's how good because Walkill Valley, well, maybe at that time, how long?
I mean, it was probably a bigger school than it was now.
No, we were small. We were group 2. We were group 2, bigger than they are now.
Yeah.
But we were immensely talented. I mean, we really were, because I certainly didn't know what I was doing. And I had Paul, and I had a kid, Greg O'Neill, who would go on to be the national champion in Division III hurdles. He went to my alma mater, Moravian. We had Brian Bonzer at one point, who was like 5'7". I jumped like 6'9", 6'10".
Yes, I remember that.
He was a freak show of his own, and we had, we kind of think we finished second in the section twice when I was there.
That's phenomenal.
7 years I was there, and we won the girls my last year without winning an event.
Amazing.
Really?
Yeah, we lost by half a point to a girl from Garfield. Good. I can't remember her name, and I should look it up.
Is that the sprinter they had there?
Yeah, she was
Najee, not Najee.
No, it began with an N, though. It did, but she was awfully good.
Yeah.
Right around when you were in high school, because we lost it in 91 and we won it in 92. So yeah, we had plenty of good kids up there. They were wonderful. And Dave, your track. We had 7 kids in 7 years long jump over 21 feet, and 7 kids in 7 years, and we're all the same kids, high jump over 6'2". Mark McGavro being one of them, a friend of yours.
Something in the water up there.
McGavro, special teams guy.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Well, it's funny that the athletic director up there now, Daryl Jones, is my former head coach's son, Bob Jones.
And I coached there.
Did you really? So he played for you?
Yes.
Coach Jones was the first one to give me the little hey buddy, we ain't doing it this way. I walked into gym class and I just got a hit, whack, right from the behind the door. Like, you better straighten up, bro. And I'm like, oh, okay. Got it. No problem, coach. I mean, I still talk to this day.
Vastly over, I know I was in those clinics at Butler. So, I mean, Bob's, before Drew changed from being an I formation guy and going to the whole end zone system, which isn't really end zone system, became like Drew's system. Right. He put a touch on it. And everybody will tell you that. Bob was an I formation guy at Butler.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll throw stuff at Derek. I mean, I was good friends with Chuck Tepper.
Ah, Chuck's my guy, man. He's my neighbor.
And he was the center, and they went undefeated 2 years in a row.
Yep, 82, 83.
Something like that. And then what he did was, Bob just said, you know what? I guess it was Manny Matsakis came through, and he ran these clinics on the run and shoot, and Bob invited me in.
He was at Hofstra.
Yeah, and who wasn't?
Exactly.
What came out of that Hofstra staff we talk about at some point.
I say that all the time.
Yeah, what a staff! It's Kyle, obviously Flood, and Dave Cohen, and we keep going down the list. Jeff Berman is head coach out at John Carroll. I mean, so many of those guys, and there's so many more. But I just think that Bob's willingness to to change and to really go with it, and then have the perfect storm of Mike Van Zyle's son and Medine and Conklin. They were a ridiculous 4x1 team too. They
were phenomenal. The starting 4 receivers were the 4x1 team.
Yeah, they were. And and again, obviously we saw Mike Campanile doing some of that stuff. And then when Al became the head coach at Glen Rock, Al was just like, we're going to spread them out and play.
Yep. So and that was always the thing, because Glen Rock was in the different section, right? And you guys would win that group one, we would win the other group one, and we never got to battle it out until I was a senior. And by that time, it was kind of just like, we definitely weren't those teams. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so interesting. So that's the evolution. Of it. So it all started with those kind of clinics, and that's how you got to talk about how you really got to run, which was originally that run and shoot system, which evolved obviously tremendously. But and you and Derek can talk about this. Obviously, there's Derek as a player, obviously growing up around it in Butler, and his friends being the Matsakises, and obviously you coaching it right from the early stages. Talk about how you got to that point when you're like, this is what we need to do.
I be honest, I can go further back than that. I mean, I know of the 3 guys in this conversation right now, I'm certainly the worst player, and I was sophomore in college. I was at Moravian College out in Bethlehem, and we were just finishing camp. We were early in camp, and I think we just did all our testing. And my position coach, Gary Martell, sat me down and said, we're putting in this new offense. This is 1980. And I was like, okay, whatever that means, He says, we'd like you to play in this position. So we come out to practice, we line up with 4 wide guys in 1980.
Wow.
They said they got it from Baldwin and Wallace in Ohio, which makes sense because Mouse Davis was an Ohio guy. Not Ohio, excuse me. Tiger Ellison was an Ohio guy.
Tiger Ellis, yeah.
And Tiger Ellison took that and run a shoot book. And next thing you know, Mouse Davis is reading this thing out in Oregon, and he's putting it out into Oregon with Portland State with Neil Lomax. And so we ran it. We were very fundamental in it. I remember running nothing but curl. All I did was run
best
curl.
Play ever.
I was running curl, and it was just, really slide route curl. And I got killed. I mean, I got killed. It was like no secret. Guys were dialing down safeties. And we had one guy catch like 40-something passes in 9 games. I think I caught almost 60. All right. And I got knocked around. Well, I was 155 pounds, but, all I was catching was curl. I averaged about 9 yards a catch.
Yep, that's exactly what it was, because it was like, hey, you're running this at 12 to 10, usually come back to the ball with 9 yards, good, done.
It'd be and if you catch the ball and you can have some courage, you could do it. So my dad saw us playing. He was a high school coach on Long Island. He only saw me play 1 game in high school, but he didn't want to miss me playing in college. So he would come out, he was an assistant, but he says, look, I'm going to go see him play. And first of all, I think he was in shock I was even on the field. All right. Only to be surpassed by me being shocked that I was on the field. Talk about the dearth of talent, right?
Yeah.
So he started watching. He started seeing his spread out stuff. My dad was an off-published author about offensive line play, and he started writing articles about line splits, being off the ball, a lot of geometry type stuff. And he dove into all this stuff. New Haven was running it at the time. The old New Jersey General. You probably played against it, David, right?
So New Haven, this is my experience when I came to college. So I signed with you, kind of coming to camp, and you're kind of like buried on the depth chart, but like you're working your way up as a true freshman. This is the old days. Now they just throw you in the mix, and you're whether you sink or swim. But
swim.
Yeah, back then, So I come in there, and our first game is against New Haven. Okay, first game of the year. And they had a guy, I think his name was Graham, was the running back, his last name. He won the Harlan Hill. I think he won the Harlan Hill. Anyway, so we go in, and we're in this like battle. And I'm like, isn't this a Division II school? Like, didn't I sign with a FCS? Do these guys have scholarship? I'm asking these questions on the sideline. They're like, they only have like 10. I'm like, wait a minute, we have 65. We're in a battle with a team that has 10. How many good guys could they possibly have? Next thing you know, it like gets into like the third quarter, and this running back takes one to the house, like stocky guy, but had good speed. He's probably like a 4.7, but like was hard to bring down, and we could not handle the run and shoot. They couldn't handle what the only way I could relate it was I remember Paramus Catholic was running it with Mike Campanelli with Vito at quarterback. And so that's the only thing I could relate it to is like because I remember the running back slipping out and catching a bunch of passes. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my goodness. I'm like, this is exactly what they were running. So anyway, they beat us. And from that point forward, I knew that Tom Jackson's job was in jeopardy. He lasted another year because our line was 6'5", average about 290, 280. New Haven was probably about average about 5'11", about 250, and they kicked our butt, right? But that was the first time I actually saw it, and then I played against it again.
Boston University.
Well, Boston University was the first time I redshirt freshman. I was on the offensive side, but I saw it. They beat us in a close game, and then we finally figured it out. We started to beat them, but the team we couldn't figure out was Hofstra. Right. So Hofstra came out, and we played them my senior year, and they had this little. He was like 5'10", 5'11" quarterback, and we got to worry about this guy. And so we used to do like one of our solutions was the A-gap blitz, the mic.
That's usually how it works.
And try to get after him. And we knocked the quarterback out literally the first series of the game. So we're like, all right, we're winning this game. In comes Gino Carmazzi, who is 6'3", 220 pounds, and starts slinging the ball all over the field. It beats us in this battle. But I mean, I can't tell you how many times I drop back and a receiver comes around, crosses in behind me, in front of me. I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Guys are sitting everywhere. They're just finding open space.
I'm jumping in my zone. They're like, stop covering grass, cover people. I'm like, the guy doesn't stop running. Where am I supposed to run to?
Yep, that's how it works. Find space, get open, throw the ball, and let's go next play.
Yeah, and it was so much there where the quarterback was underneath.
Yes.
Timing.
But that was also part of the whole thing was that got his steps right. And obviously, look, Butler, we never had anybody. Medine might have been the only ever quarterback that was over 6 foot that we ever had. So everything we did was a half roll from under center. And it was, set up on the inside leg of the tackle. And that's your aiming point. The curl comes right open. There's your window. Bam, go.
Yeah. And you're playing a lot of cover 3 and.
Right. And those guys didn't know what to do to that.
No,
you know what I mean? And now we start motioning guys across. Defenses, what are we doing? You know, they're putting linebackers out here on guys that are running by them. They really cornered. Once that all kind of got rolling and guys started to see that we can now, hey, we can spread it out, and then take in the offensive line and now widening your splits. and now like you got guys that were, he's in the backfield. Yeah, that's about right. Like
And the thing was though, that's where your zone game came in, the run
Correct.
game, and you probably were calling it S opposite at that time, or that's what I think some people were calling with the running back. Quarterback essentially was like a sprint draw concept.
Exactly.
It wasn't a lot of pulling, and then that would come in. But I think the interesting thing was, here's a Butler story for you. Butler wins a game. No, Butler loses a game. I think lost a game against Mountain Lakes.
Yep, usually who we lost to.
I think it might have been a Thanksgiving game. I don't know, but
that had to be a playoff game.
But a kid from Butler had 21 catches in the game.
Yep, that would be Mike O'Brien. He set the record that year. I think he caught 110 in the year.
Because they played the trips.
Yep. And then he just went single receiver, speed out, comeback, curl, post, pump and go. Mike O'Brien, he went to Wilkes University.
Yeah. So I remember talking to Daryl Fusco about that because Doug Wilkins was the head coach. He's a Moravian.
Correct. Yep.
And I said, Daryl, he said, well, I was kind of involved with the defense. I said, great job.
Yeah.
Great job.
21.
Yeah, it was wild. I mean, look, there was games when I would have 11 catches and no touchdowns. Like stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like we would sling, but one time sophomore year, I think we slung it. I think we had 72 pass attempts in a game.
Yeah, it was crazy.
In a high school game.
Yeah.
Against Madison. It was crazy.
How do you think that changed high school football in where you were, obviously, especially first in North Jersey? Because North Jersey football, and I'm obviously we're down the shore now, right? And shore is starting to try to catch up. But I came down and was running wide open stuff at Red Bank. The guys looking at me like I had 10 heads.
Remember our first two games?
I know. They're like, we scored 50 points.
We scored 50 on the opening night, and people were like,
They did evolve fairly quickly to try and stop this. But you're right. Yeah, we dropped 50 the opening night, and it was like I'm like, this team's supposed to be good. They didn't come out and cover trips.
They didn't change.
They didn't cover trips. They didn't cover. And I remember you used to laugh because I think you used to say when you would play I think it was Garfield. You would say Garfield, and they would never come out and cover trips. Like they wouldn't. Right?
It was Lodi, and I was such
Lodi.
Oh yeah, Who's our guy that played there, Dave?
Oh, Bertola.
Bertola.
Yeah. Well, we you wanted the evolution. I'll give you a quick Lodi story. So we're playing them 1 year. It's 99. We just beat 98. I think we won our section. Lodi won their section. We weren't in the same section. Really bizarre, right? We didn't play each other in that weird BPSL thing, right? PCT won their section, and Patterson Catholic beat the other two teams in that whole group, whatever it was. Yeah, so whoever's in it, right? So we get them the next year in '99, and it's an afternoon game. I think it was a weekday game, probably because of the Jewish holiday. So we played them over there, and we come out in trips. They got two guys out there. So now I wouldn't do this as a head coach. So I'm like getting curious. I'm like, let's see if we can put four guys out there. So we go out in the quads. They got two. So then I'm thinking, oh, what the heck? One guy's going to be an eligible. So we put five guys out there. We put anybody on the other side. And they said two. And we're just throwing the ball out the kid and running right down the field. I mean, I'm thinking this nobody's even getting dirty. And of course, one of them was Grant Adams, so nobody's getting dirty.
Yeah, that helps.
Because nobody's going to tackle him anyway.
No one can tackle him.
Yeah.
I believe his brother was a freshman in that game that I played.
Blake. Yeah, Blake played at Penn. I thought he'd play sprint at Penn. I had left Glen Rock, but then I looked at it was freshman year. But he wanted to play with the varsity, and he
played. He saw some time. I actually think
they were both so good.
Caught a pass.
Yeah, Grant was like double jointed. Grant's the one kid he coached on the perimeter. You never taught Grant how to block. You just taught kids like that. Do that. All right. And he was a tackling machine. And Dave, you'll appreciate this. We had Mikkel Brown before him, who played at Iowa. And we had Grant, who played at Boston College, who I think got on the field. Grant, we had to ask him. His initial way of getting on the field at Boston College was such a good blocker. They would set with him all the time with his motion and stuff. Grant should have played defense, in my opinion.
Yes.
And Mikkel should have played offense. Because Mikkel long jumped almost 24 feet.
I know.
Yeah.
So. He might still. He held like the Group 1 record. I don't know if you guys were 1 or 2 at the time.
We were 1 in most of his career. But
yeah.
But the evolution is, you talked about Vito in '92. A good friend of mine, Brian Young, was coaching with me. I just got into Glenrock, and we went to watch the opening game at Clifton between Paramus Catholic and Clifton, and it was pouring rain out. It was pouring rain, and the only guy who has to do more for his team, I think, ever than Vito was probably Dave when he was at Saddlebrook. Because Dave will tell you he had a great arm. He punted, he returned kicks, he kicked off. Right?
I've
kicked off.
been there. Same thing I did. It was crazy.
Listen, Dave kicked off 3 times the whole season because that's the only touchdowns they scored, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we had to throw a long pass, they pitched it to me. I threw it as far as I could.
That's right. So, but Vito would turn around and play. Vito would turn around and play middle linebacker.
Yes, he was an excellent middle linebacker too.
He would throw the ball. It was pouring out. He threw the ball like it was bone dry out there. I was like, well, this is sensational. This kid's he had the Cosmo kid playing for him and a Lopez kid playing running back. All right. And I was like, well, this was very impressive. So I think that really started the evolution, really. The Butler, Paramus Catholic. Well, I guess you could say that Mike Campanile was in the set first.
Yeah.
But the true run and shoot, I think, was really Bob Jones. All right. And then Coach Diet, who, when he took the job, he was like, let's go with this. So, and then I think you started to see more and more. And I get, with the pass game, a few guys you could look at. Remember the middle flood from Pompton Lakes. Nobody did it like that in sprint throw. All right. Everything out of the eye. And then the other team was what Bob Valley did in the pass game at Cresco was fantastic.
Yeah.
That's
what we saw them in the first round. Our first round, that was the year they changed the section, my senior year. Yeah. So that was 2003 season. So my senior year was when they started tweaking the sections, and now we were going to start playing Bergen County teams, and it was like, oh, this is a little different. Yeah. So we had to see Cresco in the first round. Then we saw you guys in the second round, at Glenrock, and it was like a whole different, and people were finally like, oh, now we finally get to see who stacks up against who.
Yeah.
So
we found out we were pretty overrated, right?
Hey man, I always credit it to like the conference we played in at Northern Hills was Banshee, man. We had to play. We played all bigger schools, right? You're talking Montville, Pequannock. Caldwell was our Thanksgiving Day game. You just always Madison. You played really good teams all year that were bigger, so you accumulated all those power points. Butler, when we made that run 4 straight, we would get in the playoffs at 4-4 and then just rip through everybody because you had played those better teams the entire time. Now you look at those teams, like I look at who they're playing and I'm going, oh man, like.
Well, I'll tell you something interesting. So I played Vito, and DJ, you'll find this interesting. So Mike Campanile was the offense coordinator my sophomore year at Saddlebrook for Patterson Catholic. Vito was a freshman. And they were running the run and shoot in that game. And it came down to the end. Like one of their receivers ran a route. I held them and tackled them. And they didn't throw a flag, and then we got the ball, we ran it out. Yeah. But even there, we were like, our solution to it was, and it wasn't a good solution because we couldn't really stop it. Our solution was like to man them up and play one over the top, because my head coach was Steve Gertie at the time. So Steve Gertie was the and that was Steve Gertie's solution to anything that caused him trouble: blitz it and play a man free.
Hope for the best.
Yeah,
I don't think that's changed though.
No.
I think it's changed. I think in any offenses you're in, but particularly guys in the open sets, it's almost like it's like chicken and the egg. Should we just run our base stuff on air, or just tell the kids the truth, which is, let's go against blitz right now.
Yep.
Let's go against blitz right now. So you got to have an answer for blitz, and everything else is easy.
Everything. Yep. If you can handle that aspect of the whole thing, and that was one of the things that we really kind of saw when we came down here was like, the blitzing aspect of it. It was like, you know what I mean? Like some guys did, some guys didn't. Some guys literally would sit in their sets and not adjust whatsoever to anything that we did when we first got down here. And we kind of looking at each other like waiting for them to adjust so that now we can counter. And we didn't have to. We kind of just stayed in what we did, and we were successful with it.
Yeah. I think now you're starting to see, some changes with that. But talking about the evolution,
evolving, it's evolving fast.
or devolving. I mean,
true.
Well,
you're seeing a lot more compression stuff and working to the outside, right?
yeah, because like, now you see that Michigan, right? Michigan's got that example. Like this year, their run game, they got all those guys compacted into the
Or
box.
even
And,
MT.
everything happens in circles, right? So
Yeah.
like we went through a passing thing. Now we're coming back to the run game. Like now the running back's coming back, all this kind of, like it's the evolution of football.
Yeah. And you'll start, I think the problem is just with when the run and shoot originally, the slots were right off the tackles. But then you started getting funny blitzes, especially in the high school short side.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because you're coming from that edge. They're bringing this. Sometimes they would bring a corner, roll the safety over the top.
Yeah, because it was easy to do because you could apex the corner to the short side, and it's really an outside linebacker. And I think we still see that. And against anything, people were doing that against the wing tee. They were cutting the corner. They do against triple too, and sometimes they paid a price. Bulls right over their head, but yeah. So I think the evolution is interesting. So Coach Dia kind of gave me the keys to the car. We had some pretty good players. That didn't hurt. I mean, my first full-time quarterback there was a kid named Chris Leonard. He was a junior, and we had. I'm sorry, my first 95. Yes, Chris was a junior. Was the first year I was in charge of the offense. So I didn't become a coordinator until I was 34. I was always dabbling stuff.
Yeah, that's what I was. Same for me.
Yeah, a lot of dabbling with stuff. I was so busy with track and trying to get good at coaching positions, and I was always taking the extra things with the positions. I coached the receivers, the DBs, the quarterbacks, special teams. I could always long snap. I don't know how I learned how to long snap. My dad was a coach, and I could hold, so I knew how, and I returned punt. So I was always involved in special teams. But you started seeing the reality of what you had walking your hallways, which was probably more as Mouse Dave said, a lot of pissant kids, diminutive type bodies who could run or were football players, tough, good athletes, multi-sport kids. Maybe not the fastest kids. So we were pretty fast at Glen Rock. We were pretty fast.
Yeah.
I mean, this where I am now is like the land of slow.
Yeah.
And I can't believe people are this slow. It's just like there's something in the water. I mean, it's slow.
Has it always been slow, or have you seen it get slower?
At Riverdale?
Yeah.
Compared to Glen Rock?
Yeah.
Well, the old phonograph had like 78, 33 and 45. We're like 33 compared to the 78 at Glen Rock. Like if it's a metronome, it'd be like this. So you got to do funny things to get guys deep. Glen Rock, you just like run by that dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
I mean, look, it's kind of like how we were at Butler. Those early teams were fast, right? Like those early teams were 4x1, but by the time it got to me, it was like,
I think a big part of it too is you don't take credit for this, but your involvement of track first, right. I think early on, and Paul coached. You guys had this great relationship track-wise. You guys might battle at times where you took, even though he was the head coach of boys, you were head coach of girls. You guys mixed. You were one of the first groups to do that. Coach by specialization, and so even though he was the head coach of track boys, you were the head coach of girls.
Right, you all came together.
In training, he coached specialization. So that allowed him to develop these. And you correct me if I'm wrong. The track guys, and I think that by the time you became an offensive coordinator, that was already in place. That was kind of a known thing that track was a thing at Glen Rock. And track at Glen Rock always kind of had history because even when I first got there as in high school, they did have a decent track teams. But you really took it and coordinated with football in a way that was unique. And correct me if I'm wrong, hasn't been as easy at Riverdale, even though you have great track. You had some great track coaches there, but it's not the same when you're not the man. Like you were the man in track at Glen Rock.
Well, I think all the specialization now in the sports is taking kids away that should be doing different things.
Correct.
I mean, Derek finds it funny when Dave and I were first starting at Riverdale, we would have I've always been an AM guy, and we'd have like an 11 o'clock thing for the younger kids, like the freshmen. We knew we were in trouble about the second day when the incoming freshmen, was about 40 of them. That was the 2007 team when they were freshmen, which would go undefeated and only give up 28 points. I mean, we kind of rolled the ball out with that team and say, just sick them. All right. Yep. But we would throw the ball to the varsity kids, And I'm telling you, kids wouldn't even get their hands up. Kids were getting their faces split open. Not all the kids, but plenty of them. Where we were
enough to make it enough to note it.
Yeah, like we are from that point. Well, we're now always helmets every day in the summer, starting in June. And kids are like, oh, it's great, you're protecting our kids from concussions. Not really, not really. It's a therapeutic thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Feel like it's for my sanity, please. Like,
yeah.
And it's also because I don't want to see your kid have to take his senior photos with no teeth. So,
well, actually, the truth is, I just don't want to stop practice.
Right.
Right.
It's becoming a hassle. But yeah, I think that's become an issue. You got, the stopwatch and the tape measure have never changed. They've never changed, but you have so much specialization now that it's become a harder sell. And we probably made the football job in the morning shoot. I coached indoor this year.
Oh, you did?
With coach. Yeah. It was a 1 year thing. I mean, I'm not looking to do that much more, but we have some.
That's tough. Indoor is always so tough.
Well, the meets are so long, and it's but hey, you're all in on it, and he'll be fine in the spring. He's got so many talented kids, and he's a great coach. But the thing at Glenrock was, Paul really took a lot of the distance kids and the javelin throwers, and I would take all the jumpers and the sprinters and kids almost up to the half and the hurtlers. So that was kind of something I would do. So I had the boys and girls, and remember that, David, this, your dad will tell you this. The girls teams were far better than the boys teams. As good as the boys teams were at that. Our girls teams were insane in soccer and in track.
Oh, unbelievable.
I mean, listen, I was at Mount Olive for 4 years, like great track, right? It was the girls were it's dominant no matter what.
Our girls were ridiculous. So.
No matter how much of a lead we had in the mile relay, Minio would catch him in the league. I remember this in the league championships because it was one of the first times I had to yell at my father because I'm coaching and I'm like, we finally have a big enough lead. And I mean, I'm not kidding. Track, Derek, we ran that year 407. Okay, which was good for Group 1, but they were better, much better. But they you guys probably ran low fours or maybe even broke it. Yeah. But we had that lead, and I want to say we had a 50-meter lead. It was, I mean, usually, and maybe more. Almost, it's one of those leads that you're like, okay, yeah, unless this kid completely falls apart, we're winning this. Well, Minio comes around on the comes to the last curve, and at the midpoint of the last curve, catches, I don't remember who her anchor leg was, but catches her and goes by her. And we catches her, and she catches her and goes by her. And there was no catching Minio when she went by it. It wasn't like she was coming back. She was gone. Yeah. My father took his clipboard, which had papers all on it and everything, and fired it, onto the track. Fires it on track. I said, what the heck are you doing? Now, the girl from Warwick, who was another 20 yards behind, had to run around
the papers.
I said, what are you nuts?
He turns to his manager, he goes, go pick that up. And she goes, she gathers the papers on the track. Girls.
Yeah. Again, we talk about this as about football, but you've had some kids that are pretty special. You get to be around in your career. Kim Minio, I mean, she won the state meet of champions 3 times in the 800 meters. I mean, was a scholarship soccer player at Rutgers, and she was 5'3". She was, and obviously she's a mom now, married, and having a wonderful life. And I tell people, if you ever saw the movie Seabiscuit or read the book, and people say, well, how fast did she run? So how fast you want to run?
Yeah.
She's going to run that much faster than you. I mean, the stopwatch meant nothing.
The twins, I remember her versus the twins from Red Bank.
The Trotter girls, yeah.
The Trotters, and they were like this tall, 5 foot, I don't know, like 5'8". Like they look like, you see the college girl distance runners, right? Like lean. And Minio, she was lean. She was in great shape, but you're exactly right. She was 5'3". She was built like a soccer player. And I'm telling you, she pounded those girls into submission. I mean,
she'd leave them at the finish line, laying the ground. Those girls both ran at Stanford. There was a girl from Southern, Lauren Lewis, who ran at Michigan. I mean, she just beat those kids up. It was, sometimes it was like after a race, you felt like calling Dyfus. I mean, she, and I still think she was a better intermediate hurdler. She ran 61 point intermediates, and I never let her really go. And the state meet of champions. I always wondered, like, if I really let her do this, I wonder if she could break 60. But Kim loves soccer, but that's the competitive nature we had there. But I know we really want to move this back towards
sure.
And I think really maybe it's easier to go to what we're seeing now and where that came from. I kind of go back and forth on it, Derek, the run and shoot routes of being the timing was so good. I always think in the shotgun, sometimes the timing is not that good. It is, I guess, off the RPOs on a glance, I guess. But it's just really downhill pitch in the option. And Dave knows my background in the triple. So it's another way of distributing the ball. You can run it. You can run gives, which are, I guess, not even an option. You can run double option in some way, whether it's a pitch, a man, or a quarterback 2-man game, or distributing the ball down the field. You can run a triple.
Yep.
But you probably should say we're only going to run that one way. We all try to do too much, but
we had it all in.
Yeah, and I've always been a multiple formation guy.
That too.
I like to get a lot of personnel packaged in there so they can play.
Yes,
yeah, I think this is just to grow your program because I think 100%. Now, I think at our place
especially now.
Well, when Dave was coaching was in 2007 in his second go around, there were only 4 groups then, but 9 through 12 we had 108 kids in the program.
That's phenomenal.
But we're not now. So now we're going to be more like 75, which would be better than it was this past year.
75 is still great.
But you have to morph it into something. You've got it's all disguised, perfume on a pig type of thinking.
Smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, and I guess for us, we've tried to play more and more kids one way. And last year we didn't do that, and we had our first losing season since 2005. Now there was a talent dearth, yes. But I don't think we really utilized the players like we could, and we ended up getting kids banged up, and the schedule's pretty hefty for us, and we struggled with the schedule, and we ended up going 3-8. So I mean that's where you got to start doing a check because things do change. Are you doing the right things with your players on and off the field? And I think we spent a good amount of time on that, but you still come back to your roots of what you know.
How do you constantly evolve your system? I think it's one of the things that I found.
We have to ask a lot of those guys that question.
Well, so Derek, to give you a little background, and I'll let Coach expand on that. But Coach, when I came with him in 2004, it was running. We were running the run and shoot. Okay. Then in 2007, I said we were really running like if you were to say the offense, it was really like multiple sets and like personnel based because we ran that whole year. Because I did the offensive line. That was the year you asked me to do. I'd never done offensive line before. You asked me to do offensive line. And
we were violent. We were violent up front, man.
Violent. Stretching inside zone we ran. I think that's all we ran. And obviously pass off it, but stretching inside zone. Then when we played you when I was at Old Japan and we played you in a championship, you were triple, although you had moved back to the gun more, but you were running that spread Navy option, right?
Yeah.
And so you evolved your system. Now your passing game, I always see similar principles. Like even though you evolve your running game, I still see kind of a lot of your similar principles. But and then watching highlights because I've been the analyst for Old Japan for the last 3 years. When we've watched your highlights, you've continued to evolve again back to a little more of the run and shoot.
Well, you're probably not watching much film then if you're looking at highlights now. Now, if you want to watch a lot of film, I'll get you the lowlights. That's going to be all encompassing,
Right.
Oh shit.
So here's the deal. So when you're talking about this, I've always been because my background, a very good background in basketball. I played for a tremendous coach in high school, Long Island, and it's about getting good people in the ball in the spots they want to. And then what you find in basketball, I played with a 6'9" kid from down my block, Tommy Hogan. I watch these kids now try to enter the ball in the post, and I want to jump out of the stands. Like you throw a bounce pass at a 6'8" high school kid, and it's coming up right near his crotch. And and you're lead lobbing him into a charge, and you're not throwing the ball directly at his hands when he's got both hands up.
Accuracy.
And I'm looking at this, I'm saying there's certain ways Like if I took you two guys, say, well, how do you like to get the ball? We can create an offense. And the first way we're going to create the offense is this. The best way to do it is we can't get Dave Schuman the ball. All right, let's snap it to him. And then we'll look how smart we are, right? Okay, we're not getting Derek and David the ball. Okay, let's go 2-man game. Let's put them both back there. Let's just figure a way to do that. Well, Derek really isn't a quarterback, but he can sprint out. So now they got to play him that way. So, you get different kind of guys. So, I had a kid. I've had so many good kids. I mean, it's ridiculous. At Riverdale, a quarterback was Blake Crouch, who was about to get beat. He's a first-team All-County quarterback in 2007. He's about to get beat out because he spent his whole summer traveling playing baseball, which was the deal because he loved baseball. And he said, I'll be there every day I can be there. He didn't miss one. And we had this kid, Anthony Carnival, who was playing great. And then Anthony kind of nicked up his knee right around camp. So Blake ended up getting the reps. And Blake was a catcher. He was a sturdy guy. And Anthony was more of a lean guy. And Anthony goes on to have a really good career at Curry playing quarterback. And Blake ends up being a catcher at William Patterson. And, really good football players. But then we kind of moved forward. I had this kid that comes in next. Well, I'm like, this kid's going to be really special. So I actually traveled down to Wofford to talk to them when Mike Ayers was the coach and Wade Lang was the offensive coordinator, run his own triple out of the gun.
Yep.
And I wanted to go underneath some more. I had this kid called, he was an Ecuadorian kid. His name was Garrett Avidable. And if you ever want to look up highlights on a guy on him, like, wow, was he a freak show. And we did a lot of direct snap to Garrett and a lot of underneath stuff with him running just a pure option. We did that for a couple of years. They had a 2-year starter. You always want a 2-year starter quarterback, right?
Of course. If
you can. I mean, sometimes it doesn't work that way. And we went from him to a kid. We made a quarterback's kid, Brian McGoey, who was like, he wore number 21. He looked like John Hadle, for the Chargers. He was put together dude. And we ran a triple with him, and he was sensational. So we stayed underneath. And then we got this kid, Pat McPartland, who I thought was going to be the next quarterback. But in between there, we had this prolific passer who was fat. He's the most pure passer I've ever coached. A kid by the name of Timmy Barnes. All right.
I remember Timmy, yeah.
And Timmy Barnes only had 1 season and 1.5 games because he broke his leg his senior year. But he ended up being a 3-year starter at Georgetown. Right? He was 6'3", like 100. He was 6'3", 160 as a junior. He was 6'3", 185 as a senior because he went to a dietitian. And he went on 5,000 calories a day. And he totally changed his body, And, I mean, what a fantastic player he was. And he's the one guy as you got older, you could still, when he was thrown, you could work with him.
Yeah.
I don't like to work with quarterbacks when they're thrown because you got to watch what their mechanics are. But I could sit in a chair and catch a ball from him 20 miles away. 20 yards away. I just put the ball on you every time. He was fabulous. And then he got hurt, and they ended up making Ryan Duran a quarterback, who was more of a runner, great athlete. Well, Ryan, in the 9th game of that season, is this crazy season. He tears his ACL.
Oh.
So Patty McPartland comes in as the quarterback, a little guy, a short, stocky kid, great mind. And we go back to running pure triple, and he can spin it. And that in the triple, it's a real problem to spin a triple when a kid can spin it.
Right.
And just we created some things. We had these good backs. This kid, Max Cepeda, comes into the fray. Dan Nastassi's son, Anthony. I mean, and we were always really good up front, And the next thing you know, we get Dylan Connolly, who's a party trick. I mean, he's running the triple. But then I got David. I got Estevez. He wouldn't bend under center, which I think he could have, but he's like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I want to go in the shotgun. So we put him in a gun, and we totally changed what we did. And that's the poison. Can the next guy do that?
Correct.
And then we ended up with the Siricos, Michael and Mike Sirico, and then Jack Gillies, who Gillies has still got the best base of any quarterback I've ever coached. The strong in the pocket, and then you kind of move along with your quarterbacks. And I got Jake Sconza, and we threw the ball 540 times in 2 years and 22 games with him.
Oh,
and just lined up in the shotgun, and we weren't good up front. And Derek, I'd stand behind practice to say this: get it out.
Yep, go. Let it go. Let it go.
I say, get it out, extend the play. Get it out, extend the play. That's all I would say to him. And, then last year we ended up going with a sophomore. And he's exciting. I mean, he's worth the price of admission. He's more of that Glenn Rock, Scotty Steven.
Dynamic type of guy that can make plays.
5'6".
It's usually what it is.
165 pounds, strong as a bull. He's got 10 starts underneath him right now as a sophomore. He's got 2 more years. And we went to bunch empty with him.
Wow.
And ran a lot of rocket toss type stuff and moved him kind of wing T-ish.
Yes.
But he can stand in there and get it out. I mean, he throws a nice ball. So, and we think we have some other guys coming behind him that can do those things too. So,
well, I think you talk about that, right, Coach? Like, I mean, you go through the whole evolution, and obviously, like, the game changes and the kids change, but like, you have to kind of go. And Dave and I have always been good with this, and kind of preaching it in terms of like, hey, you got to know your roster, know what you have, and you got to know, especially now with guys that are so, I do this, I do that, I play this position. It's like, all right, well, what else can you do? A lot of guys preach one way stuff, and that's really, I get it. But if you know what each individual can do, now you can utilize them. Everybody can play a role, and then everybody can play. Just more guys can play,
Well, that's your whole off season. Your whole off season is getting to other games, other sports, what you do, not just be in the weight room, but what they're doing in movement patterns. It's you have to scrub your roster constantly. And when guys on any staff aren't coming in doing that, so let's say each one of you were the only guy in your staff in those, we won't call them conditioning, but those I get what I call more like power and mobility, right? Because we look at body types, and we've been going through this with kids. Like, you get the guys, he doesn't go deep enough on the squat. I understand that. I said, but he's probably a longer body. His feet was probably, I said, but he's probably pretty good at pulling things. So let him deadlift a little bit more. All right. Because then he can stand up and sit down. So, and some guys just load the weight better on the front. What we're not trying to win that contest, but we're trying to find out things about our kids of what they can do. And I think you owe that to the kids. But if you're the only guy doing it in your program as a head coach, then guys come in, they start barking at kids. You're like, no, man, this kid's fully invested. We owe this kid. And, the answer is always this, David, this, right? Well, I don't know where to play him. When you're high school coach and the college guy says, where to play him? I don't know. Oh, he's probably a strong safety, Well, that means your whole team is strong safeties. And that's
my line.
That's the odd stack world of Joe Klaus. You got a lot of these guys, right? And then I don't know what to do in my offense.
Especially with that position actually being something now, that rover type guy is like what every defense.
Well, that's our whole team.
Around. Yeah, I get it.
We're like the Russian army. They're all the same guys, And then on offense, I don't know what to do with him. So you make him a detached tight end. Like he's our sniffer. He's a fullback. Would you stop?
Yeah.
He's a guard.
Just call it what it is. Oh, he's an H-back.
Yeah, he's a guard.
A guard who can catch the ball.
That's it.
In the run and shoot, he's probably a super back.
Right, because people say to you, why don't you play an attached tight end? I said, if you get me one, we'll play him right now.
Oh, man, that's a Matsakis line. That's a classic Manny Matsakis line. Yeah, it's like, Coach, how come you don't use a tight end? Well, if I had one, I sure as hell would use one.
Yeah, exactly.
So colleges say, because you brought it up, when they come in there, it drives me nuts. And I know Derek, it drives him nuts too, because I do a lot more like the recruiting side stuff now. And, when I coach with you and like the camps were all huge, but now it's a saturated world, right? So we don't run as many camps as we used to. But I'm constantly talking to college coaches, and it drives me nuts when they have no ability to see a body, let's say a 6'3", 200-pound body that can run. And they say, well, he's playing receiver and he plays like safety. Well, like, I don't know if he's going to be a linebacker. I'm like, yes, he is. Like, the body type that can run that fast. Like, do they manufacture 6'3", 200-pound guys that can run a 4.5 just because he isn't playing? Like, think of where he's going to be able to play. And it drives me nuts because I just think that, until you get to the higher level, meaning like head coach, OC, all the guys have their position. They worry about that. And then they worry, if you're a recruiting guy, they get a template of here's what we're looking for in these positions, right? And the GA is going off that template, and anybody else that's not in that template, like literally in the garbage, right? So high school coaches end up saying, hey, I mean, you should be looking at this guy. And then obviously with the transfer portal, it allows them to go and just plug and play. Kid leaves school, plug and play.
Right. It's brutal.
We talk about this all the time because we never get to a solution on this, by the way. But
It's the ongoing discussion and debate of like, what do we do?
Is like you're a high school coach. What is it you see that's like good about what's going on in recruiting? What is it that you see that's like bad about, like, is there a solution? Because you're great with solutions. Is there a solution to it? This is your crystal ball time.
Or is this just what it is? Is this what we're living in? Because we talk about it all the time.
I don't think so. I think it'll spin back. I mean, I just saw something today. You guys probably look at the Scoop constantly, right?
Oh, yeah. That's like the best site ever.
So the Notre Dame of Ohio, which is a Division II school, is closing their school.
Yep.
My high school basketball coach's son is the head women's coach at College of St. Rose up in Albany, and he had a great career as the Albany men's head coach. They're closing that school at the end of the year. And so there's not enough kids are not going to college in the droves they were, which to me is an interesting thing in itself. I have people that I've worked with say, well, they can become this craftsman or do this kind of blue collar trade. And I said, I understand all those things. I think those are good points. But I said, go tell a kid's family, and regardless of race, ethnicity, who's never sent a kid to college, that the kid shouldn't go to college.
Right.
And they're going to say, my kids, we're here. And so my kid has a chance to do that, and I'm not going to tell people what to do with their lives, but here's what happens when we go into the recruiting. First of all, our whole team can't play dead in the Western. All right. So we don't have guys coming in our place. We've had one full scholarship player since I've been there, and that was Sean O'Neill at James Madison. Kevin Barry ended up being a 3-year captain and a scholarship kid at Sacred Heart. And he probably, if Sacred Heart was a good place for him, he probably would have ended up in the Patriot League, but he tore his ACL his senior year in high school, never played one game. And then Timmy. All right. Now, David Estes is the best football player I've ever coached. And he went to Wesleyan in Connecticut because he's smarter than everybody else. He's like, I'm for this nonsense. They're going to tell me I can go there for a blank amount of no money.
Yep.
Pay nothing. And that's all Grant. And he went there and had a fantastic career.
Coming out making $200 a year.
Yeah. So 2 weeks later, he's working at a hedge fund,
right.
Which he has not contacted me on. I'm kind of wondering about that. I think he needs some money for that. So, but what happens is they come in and it depends on who's coming in.
Correct.
If he's a solid defensive coordinator guy, then I tell him, look, before we start, you're gonna go back and tell the coach this kid's terrible. But he really wants to go, so we're going to recruit him. He said, why would I say that? I said, so you can have my defense. You all do the same thing. Defense coordinators all do the same thing. Yeah, I don't know if he can really play offense. He's not twitchy.
Right. He's more of a defensive guy.
I'll take him on defense. And then the kid ends up becoming an all-conference defensive player because he's lying to the head coach, right? So, because, they're going to go after kids in the portal that are on offense, right? Because that's glitzy when you need guys to play defense. But I think right now, there's guys that are plug and play in terms of their job too. They're running a lot of the same things so they can move to the next job, and they're on their phone like everybody in corporate America, seeing about where they're going to go next and how we're going to meet at lunch and do that, or whatever creepy phone stuff people do. But we've had
that conversation, right? I mean, we've had that conversation a ton about how these guys, the portal is such a big thing now because you can literally grab guys, plug and play, and because the whole, hey, I'm going to take this high school guy, he's going to redshirt. Now I got to develop him as a redshirt freshman. So you're thinking,
I think that's the Catholic school
down the road.
I think that's the Catholic school dilemma up here right now.
Okay,
is because that's the promise, right? And I wouldn't want to sit in their seat for a second. I have respect for those guys. It's a different meal being served.
Oh yeah.
That phone doesn't ever stop ringing for those guys.
Never.
And there's kids that are being very disappointed right now on what their options are. Doesn't mean they're a worse player, but they're probably they may even be thinking, I'm going to go do something for 2 years and transfer. I wonder when they're going to get a degree. The Division III thing is a Titanic.
Yes,
because I feel it's horrible. It's horrific.
And it's a buyer's market now. I mean, if you have a kid with good grades, you just tell the kid, hey, look, man, you're a good player. They need good players, but they got to fill male beds.
Yes.
My college, Moravian, is a perfect example of that. I mean,
we sent a guy there.
Yeah. I mean, Moravian had an empty floor a year ago, an empty dorm floor. If you figured there's 20 people on there, at 20 people on there, it's $70,000 a piece. You do the math. You know how much money that you're not bringing in. So you're bringing in a lesser player at the bottom.
Yeah, because you'll take. It's almost like you'll take anybody.
Yeah. Well. Here's the thought for you guys. Every college has become a JUCO.
100%.
Yes, that's a great point.
Spot on.
Yeah. Every college has become a JUCO. And I hope that's not reflective of the kids that aren't playing anything, but I mean,
that's not a knock. That's just what this world is.
It is, but you got that better guidance in that, I think.
Yeah.
100%. But I also think there's a lot of other people above those guys in the D3 world that are pulling those strings.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I look at my alma mater, Montclair State, right? Like the NJAC caps how many guys you can come to bring to camp. They kind of do all that. I mean, listen, it's a different clientele. When I paid, you had some guys that were, hey, you were helping this guy out, you were helping that guy out. Like he just kind of slid in, or he was coming from another program. I mean, that was how your team was based. Now these guys, and because I've been in it, and now like even the, public school, private school, if they're not getting that offer, I just won't go play football.
Well, I think that's another thing, Derek.
That's a big issue.
That really, anybody who's over a certain age that is a coach, that almost physically hurts.
It does.
Yeah.
See a kid that could play in college, and that's
hey, I'm just going to go to Georgia and be part of the dog pound in the end zone.
But that's not the experience. And I think maybe sometimes that's the experience the parents want to have when they go and visit the kid. I mean, but they really want to play football. Like, one of the things we used to say, right, it was football had to be 1 or 1A. And kids, you can almost tell right away when the kid's not even in a bluff. The kid's in the know. What you'll hear from a kid is, I want to keep my options open. And I said, you're 17. You wouldn't know your options if you fell over them in the dark. All right. And, I tell this, Derek, David's met my dad, and my parents have passed in the last bunch of years. What a wonderful life they had, right? Other than their son. All right. But it drove them nuts. But
same boat.
My old man told me something once when I was screwing up in 11th grade. He said, DJ, I'm going to give you 4 choices. And my mom ran the roost, man. But if dad got involved, that was I don't know that territory, right? And it's kind of, I bring you in this world, I can take you out type thing. Yeah. Right? He would never say that because he could. But
you knew it.
Yeah, he understood that's a no-go zone, right? My mother didn't get that memo, though, crock pots, whatever else was thrown at me. All right. But my father said to me, you're going to get 4 choices right now in 11th grade: Army, Navy, work, and read. 4 4-letter words. Pick one. They're all fair choices.
Right.
But, they're not getting that talk now. And I'm not saying, I'm not pulling, I grew up in Stone or, the Stone Age. I'm just saying, I think you have to have some more serious talks with your child about the reality. And we just had one yesterday during a lunch meeting where I said to the kids, a year from now, those of you that are seniors or seniors to be, you're not going to be in this room.
Nope. So
what do you got? And if you're a junior to be, well, you just put another year on it. They're not getting that talk. And I know those talks were taking place when you were a kid.
100%.
I have those talks with my son, and Derek would attest to this. Now, even though he's 8, not about but more about doing the right thing, handling yourself the right way,
presenting yourself the right way.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Because my son is like, DJ, you love him, but he's unbelievably smart, way smarter than me. He's
passionate,
and he is a crazy competitor. And I'll tell you this, he's 8, right? So he'll struggle to get a hold of his emotions, and he'll try and just take a kid out. He's just he's a competitor. So we're trying to evolve him. And so he goes through ups and downs. And one of the great things is, and we talked about this earlier, we put him in every sport. He wants to play every sport. We put him in travel basketball for the first time this year. And we're like, does this season ever end? We're in season 5, and now he's a great basketball player. Absolutely different athlete from me, long and lean, and he's playing quarterback. He plays point guard. I mean, I couldn't do any of those. I couldn't do any of those things. But he is he's such a competitor. But the thing we talk to him about is, hey, how are you handling yourself? You always got to work on how you handle yourself. how do you carry yourself, right? Like, how do you carry yourself as a person? Okay, because not that I don't care about what other people think about me, but I want the perception of what I want to represent of myself to be accurate, right? So teaching that, and then academically, because at that age,
he's a stud.
He's he's an excellent student, but honestly, he can finish his work in 5 minutes.
Right.
When his friends are taking an hour. And so he's like, I don't care about school. We're like, no, that's not how it works. Like,
he's bored, man.
Yeah. So those conversations, my dad had those conversations, and you obviously my dad well. My dad had those conversations with me. I remember, man, when I was 6 years old, like me and my brother are 5 and 6. We were too crazy in the house, and he said, "Okay, you guys are wrestling," and we were, hey, bud. We were wrestling, and you want to come and say hi real quick? So we were he put us in wrestling at 5, 6 years old just because he couldn't take it. They couldn't take it anymore. Like, you need to get this discipline. Come here, say hi. How come you're home from school today? 11 o'clock. Oh, you're sick. Oh, okay.
No bueno.
There
What's up, stud?
I guess he's sick. He had to come home today. All right, go upstairs. All right. I'm so.
Maybe he's got all his work done.
It's very different.
Maybe he told the teacher he's got all his work done.
Oh, yeah. Did you get your work done?
Half day.
You have any work done?
I get to go. Hey, St. John Vianney, half day every Friday, so they're done at 1:15.
Listen, and you know what? This is he
private school.
He wants to come home and hang out because we live the good life, right? So he wants to come home and hang out.
I know you got that nice piano in the background.
But anyway, but your point is really valid. Is
they're not having that conversation?
That conversation
right?
is such
Parents
a big deal.
now want to be friends, they don't want to have those.
I think you're seeing the same thing football wise with, where kids are playing on the field and what we can do, and it's a constant. It's easier actually as you get older, and again, I don't think it's any secret to anybody that, the number of years I will continue being a head coach is really numbered, because it's just it times out, and
100%.
And you're looking at, okay, what's next, but are the people who could be next wanting to do those dirty work things, and David knows where the program was when we got there, and it was so much hope in the program, and you still hope that there is hope, but we're dealing with longer season and less kids, and how you can practice, and we were probably one of the most atrocious tackle teams, which is highly unusual for
you don't get to do that,
but we have to do that, and we can't live in that world anymore that we can't.
Right.
Right.
Correct.
And the kids have to be prepped all year long, and it's a violent game.
Yeah, right? I mean, that's part of it. And look, I know
that. How do you do that? Yeah, how do you handle tackling?
I was just, it was so different for me, right? Like, I know that if I was playing now, I would have a 15-yarder every game, right? Because I was taught as a safety, somebody comes across the middle, bro, like, that's it, right?
How do you teach tackling now? How do you go about it?
Did you see us play last year?
So you didn't? You told us you didn't?
Poorly. That's how I teach it. We teach it poorly, and we execute it at an even lower level.
We're proud of the fact that our kids can take things for the best.
Well, I tell the kids, look, this is, when you're playing quarterback, if you're going to get sacked, can't throw up in the air and yell spud. All right. And when you're tackling somebody, like, the more guys we get there, the better. So how do we handle tackling? I think there's some things that we have to address. It's got to be the focal point. The old thing of, if you want to make special teams special, you do them initially when you start practice. I think it's where your emphasis is. What you invest is more important than what you emphasize.
Yes, sir.
Right? So what's the investment? So I think you can come up with all the drills you want. I think one of the big things is not just the tackling, but I see kids not being able to take on a tackler.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah, I mean, how to finish a run.
Correct.
Right.
Or when you're built like, well, now I'm a fat, skinny guy, but when I was a kid, how to make myself into half a man, so I was only taking glancing shots.
Right. So I wasn't taking that full brunt of whatever force is coming at me now.
Everybody's different. I have long arms. I always had good stiff arm. Keep people away from me. Maybe it was a fear factor type thing, but they don't hit and spin as well as they used to.
No, they won't spin.
Everybody wants to jump over somebody.
Oh gosh, yeah, I'm not a fan. So
me neither. I think we've gotten flagged for it multiple times anyway.
Yeah, I think that the I think you go back to your grassroots of tackling. I don't think there's any look. You're going to get hit. We have to. Like, first of all, the state said something like you can have 90 minutes of contact. I said, who put this in? And my athletic director says, well, they're careful of the contact. I said, that's like a lot of contact. I mean, people license to kill. Nobody's doing 90 minutes tackling. Like, they don't know. You got people that are making rules that don't know what's going on.
Well, we had Coach Wembley on, right? Remember when we had Coach Wembley? He was talking about I'm in the assembly here talking, a lady's trying to put together, one of the whatever is trying to put together something to like end tackle football. He's like, and here I am like, can I explain to you? Like, you don't even know what you're talking about.
No. And they shouldn't go there, and they should have people that are advising them on it. So I think the contact, my push this off season, David, has been even in the gym, has been to run through things, whether it's a medicine ball being tossed, how to finish. We spend so much time in coming to balance and decelerating. That's good, but sometimes you just got to go, and you got to get the movement. But I think it's this is so important. You understand? This is going to be part of what our DNA is going to be. So we're going to tackle. Get ready for it. We're going to get tackle. Get ready for it. I mean, we're in helmets all the time. I mean, you can't see where you're not looking at. I mean,
eyes up.
Guys tackle different. Guys tackle. You got to get the guy on the ground. All right. People will say, "Hey, aim small, miss big." I mean, aim small, miss small. I think just the basic stuff that we've always used is, burning inside hip and look, we all do track and drills, right? We all do track and drills. To me, the track and drills, a small guy was this. If the guy who's carrying the ball sees me and comes to balance, I got to probably buzz down somehow, right?
Right.
If he's not looking, knock him out.
Yeah.
And that's just it. I mean, and that's on him. I mean, you're not doing anything dirty, but it is a physical game.
Football.
It's a violent game. And we need all our kids, if you lose a kid, in some ways you're losing 3 or 4 kids. But I think there's a reality to it that it's on in practice. I don't know.
I think the biggest thing too is
I think if you
tackling, because I now coach at the lowest level, right? Is by teaching a lot now the with the near hip and the roll stuff is great, but for my whole entire career up until maybe about 6 or 7 years ago,
not what it was.
The whole thing is to run your feet, right?
Yeah.
So
run your feet on contact.
And I used to lose it on kids who would go to the ground with their legs, take their legs out of the tackle, basically go to the ground.
Very common.
Right. So it's very hard to tackle somebody. And so obviously that's a big part of it. And so it's a lot harder, though, to teach them to continue to use their legs when they're going through the hip and that roll than it is when the old bite the ball and it's a big
face mask on the ball, eyes up.
Yeah, but I'm saying there's a big and there's a way to teach. Obviously, to me, there's a way to teach. Obviously, head ups. You always gotta have your head up.
You got to
put your head out of the play. But what's happened is less legs are involved in finishing the tackle. So I actually think it's more dangerous. I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong because you're in it more than I am. I think it's more dangerous. I've seen a lot of tackles when they go to the ground where the kids stop running their legs and then the guy running the ball stops running their legs and whatever. More dangerous than the kid who just is coming fast, tackles him through, keeps running his legs, brings him to the ground. He lands on the ground. So,
Well, I think what you're talking about with some of the tackling is the frozen picture of the kid being on a knee and trying to make the tackle.
Yes.
Right. So you got a couple of things here. The heaviest part of your body is your head. The weakest part of your body is your neck. The strongest part of your body is your caboose and down, right? Your posterior chain, right? Mm-hmm. And those things need to be accented. And what I see is exactly what you're talking about, Dave, is with the tackling now, we are teaching keep the head out of the equation, which can mean a lot to a kid. Like, just get it out of the way. Bite the ball has definite worth, in my opinion. All right. I think it's why you're seeing so many shoulder injuries, because kids are buying and the arms come. It's like the offensive tackle in the pros tearing a bicep, right? But they're trying to make this tackle with it's an arm tackle, guys.
That's what it is. It's this.
Yeah, and that's not good.
A shoulder, that's this. And you're talking about the technology. Everybody wants to focus on let's change the helmets, let's change the helmets, let's change the helmets. Well, now you're taking the head out of it. How about we update your shoulder pad?
You know, what about the knees on the
that's
ball,
what you're using.
the knees on the ball carry with the twist, right?
Oh, gosh.
Every time a guy, you know,
in practice, is twisting.
Yeah, like that ball carrier, whether it's my ball carrier or the other team, it's almost like you want to close your eyes, right? Because when he turns, the ball carrier's going this way, and the guy's trying to turn him. It's two completely opposite motions. Whereas
it's not natural.
But that's what you're seeing in practice.
Okay, yeah.
How many times in practice they say it's not those guys? I try to use all the positives. Like the don'ts don't really help. Don'ts are not effective in teaching in anything you do. All right. They'll figure that out when they put their hand in the bandsaw, right?
Correct.
That's a don't, right? But what you're going through with the kids is we want all these do's, but where we all throw the don't out there in practice, don't twist. You guys are getting all twisted up, you know, because we're not tackling. So they're getting into that do-si-do type thing. It's square guys, and it's scaring the holy heck out of you. You know, stay off the ground. Get it. I get it. That's not where the issues are. I mean, nobody wants to talk about the linemen. They don't know what's going on behind them. And it went all this contact stuff, and they're not. You know, the only way to learn how to block is block. You know, I mean, you have to block. I mean, that's it. You know, sleds don't move. Sleds have a purpose, but sleds don't move. People.
There's nothing. There's no better teacher than experience.
That's right. And you know, I mean, bags are fine. I mean, but you slide off a bag differently, and when somebody's being combative with you with their hands or shoulder or their movement, right? So I think we've made it somewhat more dangerous.
Yes.
To be honest. I do.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys know, you tell your kids when they get to the second level, no moves, just go. Because those guys never get to practice tackling those cats. You know,
tackling in the open field is why I hold my breath every opening kickoff. Hold my breath.
That's right.
You get an open field now, it's a touchdown. Unless it gets slow. You know, unless it gets slow. Right. Where he gets caught.
Or he goes to Riverdale. do you know this is a true story. Since Alec Lanza and David Estevez graduated in the 16-17 period, we have not returned a kick for a touchdown. However, we have, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of almost 30 kickoff returns of 50 yards or more.
Really?
Can't finish it. Story of my life. I got hawked 5 times senior year on punt returns.
Yeah, they don't finish it. So
nope, slow guys.
Well, I also think that there's a so the specialization, and I'm curious what you think about this. Track and field, which, you know, and Derek wasn't a track guy. Obviously, I was a track guy. You're a track guy. But track and field, to me, and football go hand in hand. Yes. And specialization in football has now, maybe not in the South, okay? Because the South, those kids go, they run track. Like track is, you know, like we had on coaches from Florida, like
a little different.
They still emphasize track. Okay.
He pushed Mike Smith, right? American Heritage.
From American Heritage.
He's like, my guys are on the track.
Yeah.
Right. But up in, I would say the North, definitely, because everyone wants to specialize and whatever their sport is, they're doing that 24/7. And we talk about this all the time. That then affects their overall. You can run all the routes. Well, Derek just said this to me the other day, because we see our guys that, like, we have a 7-on-7 club. We travel, you know, me and you used to talk about it. I'm part of the problem in the recruiting system. But those kids, they run. I am. They run. They'll just run routes all year long. That does not get you faster.
No. Like,
that does not build your speed. It gets you good at route running. They'll run crisp routes, but your 40 is still 4.8. You know, like, so if you're running track, you're running good routes. How long does it take you to master your cuts if you're with a coach that's fairly good at teaching it, right? It doesn't take you that long to start doing it if you're getting enough reps. What you need to do is develop your overall speed. And I've seen, and this is one of the things that I think stinks about the fact that I can't run as many events, where the combine part we used to emphasize, which was a big speed element to it. And we can't even get kids to get timed anymore. Guys don't want to get timed.
Because the truth.
They don't want to get timed.
Right. They don't want to hear that.
They don't want to hear what their time is. I'm like, well, your ego can't handle it, but you need to know what your time is so you can improve it.
The ones asking for the time are mommy and daddy, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's all they want to know. I mean, look, we just did an event Saturday night, and it was, I mean, look, I've been doing these with you, Dave, forever.
Wise?
This is, I'm telling you right now,
the worst I've ever seen.
it was god awful. To be
But I
honest,
think
god awful.
Skill-wise, they were good too. Skill, they were great.
Agility stations, you should have seen them working all over the place, right?
Can't
Shuttle
run a
times
40.
were great. Great shuttle times. 40s. And listen, it's the first time since I've been doing this. I've been doing this with you, Dave, for 10 years. I think I had maybe one or two guys ask their time.
Well, I'll give you one. You know, sprint mechanics, right? So the more you read of guys who are, we'll call them strength and conditioning guys, I don't know if we're too strong and I don't know if we're in real good shape. So, you know, we kind of look at it a little bit differently, not because we're trying to be on the cutting edge, we're just trying to have a little better application of what we do. But one thing that's missing from a lot of lifting programs is sprinting. And because, you know, you have your, you know, Dave, you know, from all the plyo stuff going back to Eastern Europeans, because you were in high school at the time when the Iron Curtain was coming up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, all this stuff was getting out, like how these dudes running with our guys, right? And we found out we were so far behind.
Oh yeah.
And one of the things that you saw was the weight room and this, you know, speed and strength plus strength equals power, right? So it's about power, all right? It's about power. And, you know, you can talk about multi-joint movements, all right, all you want. I mean, we do stuff with multi-joint movements. This is a good one. We'll kneel down in front of the pull-up bar, which is up here, and we'll go knees to feet to a pull-up, all right? But we go knees to feet, medicine ball pass to a guy right in front of us to a pull-up, coming down knees to feet. So you're hitting flat-footed because the power's in the ground, right? Yep. And we do that stuff. But we do sprint mechanics because you guys are great with this. We're March 1st today. We're still working on, even though I coached indoors because we have the multi-sport kids, just linear speed, how to run properly. All right. And we do 1 day forward. It's probably like a 7-minute period. And it's got skipping in it. It's got running backwards. It's got walking backwards. Just, you know, proper arm drive, because arms will mimic, legs will mimic.
It's mechanics, right? Muscle memory.
But what we do with them is we also, the next day we do it backwards. We do all the things running backwards because they won't screw those things up, you know? But you have to emphasize that because you want, you know, for us, well, I'd be mortified of putting a kid on a watch because I'd be mortified. Oh. But we're trying to get kids that can run 5 flat every play. Not 4-5. Well, we know we're not going to run 4-5. All right. And then run 5-5. We want kids that can do that. But you do have to be able to, you know, you guys know at our level, it's very possible our lineman in our program could be our fastest guy in the 40.
Possible.
That is possible at our place. All right.
Hey, NFL combine going on right now. Some of these dudes, 300-something pounds, running 4.6s, like.
Well, the big thing is our receivers are running 5.6, so it's not that our linemen are that fast. They're just a little less slow, you know. You know, like we have a standing ovation because when they touch the net in basketball.
I was one of those guys.
That's our basketball team. All right. You know,
I get it.
Yeah.
That's so funny. So I think you brought up a couple of great points. There's a guy, I don't know if you know, I don't know if you're ever on social media, but this guy, Tony Holler, he was a former football coach, and he calls it Feed the Cats is his program. It's like, he's a great speed guy. I just started following him about like 3 or 4 months ago. And he just started saying things about how football coaches and most sports, but not just football, they're not treating speed anymore the right way. They'll just run them to death, and you know.
Is this the guy that's talking about getting the starting blocks last?
What's that?
Is he the guy that's talking about getting the starting blocks later?
I'm not.
I know Mike Urso was telling me about a guy yesterday. So
you would like him. His name is. I'll send it to him. He's very interesting. He talks about. He says, you know, you talk about football's a collision sport, blah, blah. He said track and field is sprinting is a collision sport, right? You're colliding with the ground, okay? And so you're trying to be the most efficient you can and develop the power you can from the ground. And the mistake a lot of people make is they don't learn how to run linearly, right? And you know, I always hear this, and a lot of guys say this all the time in football. Since I was a kid. He can't run. This guy's fast in the football field, but he can't run when you have a watch. Well, I always said, you know, okay, that makes sense. But Jabril Peppers ran 10.4 in the 100-meter dash, and my bet is that he can run linearly faster, and he's
Right.
also going to
Finds the
outrun your
coverage
guy
first.
that is a great football player as well. So when all things being equal, the guy who actually is linearly faster is going to win. I don't care how fast the guy is on the field. If the guy can turn it over X speed. So he talks about those kind of things. And I think that that's become a little bit of like a lot, not teaching sprint mechanics, how to generate speed, how to utilize the arms and legs to be able to generate speed. It is a thing that could be I go back to like when I think when I was with you, I had the speed school, and obviously Bill Parisi was at his height, and all those other guys, right? And we used to like there used to be the argument over all these trainers now, the guys were going to these trainers to learn speed. Well, the funny thing is the guys who teach speed now, they know nothing about speed. They know absolutely.
We talked about this.
They're everywhere. They're on every corner, even down here. And people always come to me, they're like, well, how come you don't put your kid with him for speed? I was like, because none of them teach speed. You know what they teach? Hard work. They work them to work them to death. Now, if I want to send my kid there to work them to death, absolutely. Like there's a value in that. There's definitely a value in that. But if I want my son to learn how to teach speed or how to run properly, there's a way to teach it that's different. You don't do an interval. You don't just constantly run them through and think you're going to get them faster. You're actually getting them slower by doing that, right? There's, and this goes back to track and field. There's a difference between tempo runs and a guy that's getting ready for the 100-meter dash, where you want longer breaks and higher speed levels and higher power in order to get him faster for the long run. And it's funny because my father talks, and he used to be, listen, and from the old days, my father used to send us in the early 90s, we'd run our sprint day, and then he'd send us for like a 3-mile run, and he'd wonder why our fastest 100 meters were 11:1. He completely evolved where his sprinters don't do any of that now, right? They work on speed when it's speed days, and then they might do like, 3/4 speed 100 meters in the off days, but it's all about speed. And that's what I think in football, and probably a lot of sports. I'm just using football as an example. But we've lost that art form of teaching speed and how to be able to do that. And it's gone to just go to my trainer and work them out. Because coaches have given up. High school coaches have given up because
they have so much extra on their plate now, too. Like,
right
now, I mean, look.
Well, you're fighting parents. You're fighting parents.
They never coach track either.
Right.
That's the thing.
And not many coaches are coaching other things now, right? Like that's the one thing that we've seen is, especially post-COVID, guys really took a look at it and said, man, like this is a lot of time. Like,
I'll give you an example on it there. This track season, I coached indoor, I just wrote it down, was my 101st season of coaching high school athletics. And that pales in comparison to Howie Schuman, right? It was always a three sport, but 101 seasons. There's a lot of mistakes in there, all right, where you learn these things. There's a lot of in track and field. There's a lot, and David knows this. There's a lot of clinics on the side on the fence during a race.
Oh yeah.
When you want to see guys share, go over to the jumps.
Yep.
Because guys are talking all the time. You might see a boy long jump 18 feet, and he's technically so much better than your 21-footer. You got to ask him, like, what are you teaching this kid?
Yes, technique.
Yeah, and or just how you maximize that kid's speed. So we all know it's maximum force, minimum time, right?
Right.
Maximum force, minimum time. And there's so many analogies that you can go through, but I think it's where it's gotten lost. It's the football. It's scheme.
There's no focus on the fundamentals.
Well, for example, our quarterbacks right now, this morning, because we got to make sure we're using basketballs. So I've heard. All right. I mean, like, I'm really worried about guys doing the wrong thing with what's going on down the street. Yeah.
When meanwhile there's a guy outside your building waiting for these guys to come to take them to dinner.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, they're not taking our kids, man. I'll tell you that right now.
You got in-home visits going on, Coach.
It's like that fish was too small. Throw it back. All right. So anyway, we work on this stuff, and I won't put a quarterback in the passing game in the shotgun till late June.
Yeah.
Because their feet we want to work their feet. and you always want to have 9 quarterbacks in the room to save arms and all that stuff. They got to work on the skill, but any skill work you're doing, whether it's sprinting or even agility stuff, when you're in your time periods, you have to make sure the kids understand we're getting to the point where this is becoming a conditioner, and it's not becoming what we need it to become, which is, I don't call it explosive, like where we're learning how to accelerate or we're learning how to change direction, because you have to really work on changing direction. Where you're if they're on a gym floor, they can make a movement better than they can make it on grass. So we'd rather do stuff on grass. All right. Because they develop some proprioception in their ankles. They're on all these stiff surfaces all the time.
All the time.
So, we think we have come up with the shin splint vaccine at Riverdale. The shin splint. You want to hear what the shin splint vaccine is? None of my football players ever, when they run track, ever, anywhere I've been, ever get shin splints in track. So we jump rope so much.
Oh yeah, jumping rope was the jump rope. That's something you've always done. That is different than almost every. I have not seen it at any other program that I've been at. The way that although Joe Klaus, I think brought it to Old Japan a lot.
Yeah,
I remember when he was doing it because he obviously got it from you. But you're right, jumping rope, because those are like. See, those are things, and by the way, they don't do it in a gym class anymore.
No, absolutely not.
I mean, ask my son what he does in gym class. He goes to school. What do you do in gym class?
We sit in a squad.
No, I don't know. Run around. Like, do you learn any skills? Do you jump rope? No.
No, they don't do that.
My son jump rope? No. Okay. Do you guys play tag?
Sit-ups? No.
No. Can you do a push-up? I had to teach my kid how to do push-ups because in the old days we used to do push-ups They don't do push-ups in gym class. They don't do sit-ups in gym class. They don't do – they do almost nothing. It's pretty funny. And when they get older –
irritates your kid because he wants to go and compete and do that stuff.
He'll do push-ups.
We used to put together AP gym class.
They should. It's the only course that's not tracked.
It's like, hey, let's go. We'll go AP gym. We'll all compete. Everybody else – go over there and I don't know.
Well, this is a side discussion, but the two most important classes, and you used to teach. I think Derek used to be a teacher of this too. Is to me, but
is the piano and what else, Dave? The piano and what else?
Well, besides the piano, and singing voice, is history and physical education. Okay. And obviously math, I get all that. I get I get why those are important. I get that stuff. But history, knowing where you've been, where you come from, where maybe you're going, and then physical education, which is basically gone by the boards. New Jersey, maybe in Illinois, are like the last 2 states in America that maybe even have it as a requirement. But physical education, how to physically be able to handle yourself, be able to develop self-esteem. From being able to get stronger, and I'm not even talking about sports. I'm talking about like they be able to have
how many
feel about yourself.
Have a pegboard. How many?
There's nobody that goes. I mean, I don't know if you still go to gym or like you do, but there's no better feeling. I when you go to work out and you come out of there and how you feel, So, and you feel better about yourself. But those are the things that it's funny because we try to like in our society like move away from these things.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, and there's so much data on that. The guy who wrote the guy who wrote the book out in Naperville, Illinois, did the whole study. It's a great study in terms of what they did with their kids before school in the 0 period and how their mathematical and English scores went through. It's a great book. It's called Spark.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called Spark. And you can actually, if you don't want to read the book, they give great presentations on YouTube on it with that author. All right. And I try to sell it to everybody, and I got a better chance of seeing God than them accepting that. But I just think it's kind of important that we do these things. I mean, it's funny.
I mean, you can look at the videos of like gym class from 1970 or 1960, right, where they're back and they're doing push-ups, jumping jacks, all this stuff. And now you look at it and it's like, what is that? What are we doing?
I know.
What are we doing?
And to think this all started like with the run and shoot. I mean,
That's all I got left.
Yeah. So I mean, look, I think those things are. Again, we talked about it, scrubbing the roster, finding your kids in the hallway. I mean, I'm not in the classroom anymore because I retired as a history teacher.
Right. That's what Coach was telling me.
And I think that's affected us adversely very much in terms of getting kids out. And
you're not in the you're not.
No. And, getting around. It was funny because when I finished the 2-week stint as a leave replacement, the kid said, "Wow, you should really come back full time." And I said, "Look, when I finished teaching, there was nobody in the room because it was COVID. It was that 2021 school year, and nobody was coming to school.
No,
right? And because they didn't want to get banged, especially athletes, they didn't want to get banged with the positive, right? So, or being around somebody. So, and that's not even a political thing. It's the kids kind of figured it out.
No.
The kids played the system. They knew exactly what to do.
That's right. And they were like, they weren't coming back. And so I kind of finished the empty classroom. So I guess it kind of scratched that itch, seeing kids again.
Yeah.
But they said, you should really come back. I was like, I know, I still got it. But they said,
right.
Why don't you come back? I said, no. I said, I didn't have to correct any papers. This is great.
Yep.
I just come in here, teach history, and you guys are kind of curious about things because they were freshmen, some of those seniors when I was leaving.
Right.
And it's a lot, but you get such a pulse on the building.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
I see the push now is to not have a pulse on the building.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not don't ask, don't tell militarily. It's just that there's not the engagement that there needs to be. I'm not blaming anyone, but I'm blaming
it's
everyone.
just kind of how the system has rolled.
But somebody, you got to step forward and be a little stronger than that. Same thing with the coaching, Derek. When you talk
Where's
about
the leadership?
Well, we follow from the front.
That's what I mean, right?
That's
like
part of the issue.
Like that's it. And here's the other part. What do we talk about all the time, Dave? Like a lot of these guys, they it's got to be now. Everything has to be now. What about your investment down the road, right? Like even talking about assistant coaches, it's hard to get good assistant coaches that are willing to go through that process, learn, hey, let me take this all in. Everybody thinks because they play Madden, they can call plays. Like, what are we doing?
I mean, I can't call plays, and I've been doing it for a long time.
There ain't no science to it.
Just ask the parents,
Yeah, I mean, look.
I thought you were going to ask me questions like, okay, like what game do you remember? When did you screw things up the worst? And I was like, I better start writing some of this down because there's so many possibilities. So I didn't know if you're going to ask me any of those things about.
No, we don't put anybody on the spot.
No,
I'm fine with that though. Like I can handle.
Hey, we know the best coaches are in the stands on Friday night.
I'm a special guest. I mean, like you can ask me those things. I'm playing with house money, so.
I'll tell you what's interesting. You talked about like leading from the front, which is a big deal, and me and Derek talked about this a lot. Listen, the AD I had who hired me at Red Bank was. Honestly, he was phenomenal. This is a funny story, DJ. So we're sitting there, and it's the summer. Derek, he may have already started helping me coach there. It was very going to be my very first year there. And the guy who hired me, who was phenomenal, he didn't know me, I didn't know him. We just clicked, and like he's just a great guy who, he's like you. He'll give you the shirt off your back. Glad to recommend you to anybody. Like. He's that kind of a guy, and his name is Del Da Pra. He's a fantastic human. Anyway, so he hired, but so basically they were giving him such a hard time. And he had been there for a long time. Built this Red Bank was, I guess, a bad. I don't know. I wasn't there, but it was a bad program. Took it over, built all the programs up, hired some great coaches. The guy who was the head coach before me did a fantastic job.
He was great. Giglio.
Yeah, he hired me, and I'm sitting there in June, and he's got all the coaches in there, like, for the end of the year, getting into next year. And he goes, Dave, I got to apologize to you because what I'm about to announce is going to directly affect you. He goes, after this year, I'm retiring. I sat there and I was like, oh my God, what did I do? That's so right. I had taken the head coach job, and this guy, I literally took the job because I just thought this guy is phenomenal. Like I could see myself. So he was there that whole year. It was a great year, right? Derek will tell you this. Whew. Then he was out, and it happened to be COVID, right? So was the next year. It happened to be COVID.
Wildfire.
And then we had I won't say his name, but he's a famous guy as the interim coach. Everybody knows who he is. Famous guy. And he's a good guy, but it was detached, and it was a disaster for us. And then
the interim title never usually goes well.
Well, right. They hired a new guy. This is I haven't been there. I haven't even been there a year. The season is concluded, and I'm on the third AD now. And then eventually they brought me in, and obviously this guy wanted to go a different direction, which was great. And I was like, no problem. Like, see you later.
Good timing.
Yeah, it was great time. It was COVID. COVID was hell coaching at least for me. It was. I don't know how Derek feels about
first time we ever coached a game without any practice or work. We had a 15, maybe 20 half hour, I don't know. We had a walkthrough on Saturday and played the game at 10 whatever in the morning.
Yep. Oh,
okay.
we gave our kids. They wouldn't let us do anything, obviously, because somebody had COVID or whatever, and we gave our captains our practice schedule, and they would go to a park, and they would work on their own, And so the 2 days before we're about to play our game, they said, we heard the kids go and practice on their own, in their own, right? Parents, whatever they're doing, and they go, you can't do that anymore. I'm like, well, I'm not doing it.
Right.
We are doing it. So you got to tell them. They're like, well, you need to send out a message. I said, okay, I'll send out a message to them as their parent now to tell them not to do things on their own time. Right. Like, no one said they had to do it. I said, hey, if you guys want to do this will, since you're going to be playing a tackle game,
since you're lining up,
you're going to be hitting each other. We're not worried about their safety there. No. We're not worried about their safety, but and they're going to be breathing on each other when they the Hackensack kids are going to be breathing on us, and we're going to be breathing on them when we tackle each other. But no,
we got to stay distant.
No practice. Anyway,
so everything's in your bucket.
We play Benji. Me and Benji are laughing after the game. We beat them. Our team played a great game, and we beat them.
We rode off into the sunset.
And then we rode off to the sunset because the next week we come in on Monday, and we're now allowed to go start practicing again. And the principal comes over and he goes, someone has COVID in the school or something, and we're going to practice like we just started again. And I was like, all right, guys, see you later. And you guys can't practice anymore, so I guess the season's over. I said, best of luck to you guys.
See you, fellas. 2 weeks
that
later,
was it. We were done. We rode off into the sunset. That was it. That was the season. That was the COVID season. And but the point is that the leadership thing. So they worked out a guy that was old school. Old school's not the word. The guy. Because I hate sometimes people bash old school. It's not that he's old school. He did things the right way. Okay, yes. And he believed in doing things the right way. And he believed in taking care of his coaches. And he believed in solving problems. Like, I'm the AD. I'm going to solve problems. Is Dave giving me a hard time about something? I'll solve it, right? I'll solve it. We don't need to have a meeting every 2 seconds with Dave because this kid's playing tiddlywinks in the corner and he shouldn't be playing tiddlywinks, right? So
he's got to get his varsity jacket.
Right. Or I'll solve it. And so what happened was I saw immediately, not that those guys don't know what they're doing but you could see immediately we kept working towards the lowest common denominator, less leadership, a less empowerment of coaches, less empowerment of ADs. And you have is he still? I don't know if he's still there. You have one of the greatest ADs if he's still there. Yes. So from the time so at Riverdale you have that luxury, but most other places are not like Riverdale, like Old Japan. And Old Japan current AD was my AD in Indian Hills. I loved him, Lorenzo Barada. I was a big fan. But it's so interesting how leadership wise, instead of trying to get guys who are strong leaders, we just want people to conform on everything.
Everyone wants a yes man.
And I don't care where people are, yes or no. Like, even if I like when someone disagrees with me. I like the conversation. That's healthy. Right?
How we work.
Yeah. But now it's like he disagrees with me. He's the enemy. Talk about is that evolve? You have a great AD, so that may not be the, obviously.
I think it's a microcosm of what you see in society. I mean, it's a nation of sheep, and again, that doesn't fall on political lines. It's just
right.
What the push is. There's not a lot of depth to what's going on. I mean, I'm not even talking about football copycat. It's just look the old adage of the job's a job. When your old man tells you got to go cut the lawn, you got to cut the lawn, and the lawn's got to look a certain way, and there's a process to cutting that lawn. And there's no way around that. And we're asking kids to play a game that's incredibly physical. And in your case, what you're talking about with your COVID experience, you really didn't have them prepared. I mean, let's look at the pretzel logic of New Jersey high school football now. you have 6 days that you have to have, right? But you practice all summer, they don't count because that's not acclimatization. So you got 6 days before you can go with another opponent. And the 6th day is the first day you can go full pads. You'll have Sunday off, and Monday you full blast scrimmage an opponent. What are we doing here? And
you know those other guys, it's like both teams, I don't care what you do. That first scrimmage, guys are flying, right? So that might be the hardest, most intense practice game you have all year.
But it only counts as an hour of practice.
Correct.
All right. According to their rules. But you bring up one of the things I think that was very helpful in football for the grind was double sessions. Now I understand you shouldn't be doing certain things, but I've had the conversation where you can practice for 3 hours. So we can practice from 11 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon on the turf in the heat. Yeah, I said, that doesn't seem real intelligent to me.
No.
But we can't practice from 6:30 in the morning to 8, take a half-hour break, and go from 8:30 to 10 because that's considered a double.
Correct.
I said, that seems ridiculous. I'm figuring some guys are doing that, all right, which is rather more intelligent because of just time and motion studies.
Yeah, and then you're out of there by whatever time, right?
But you're never asked to have that conversation. No. I mean, even in our place, you're not asked to have that conversation. But our athletic director is kind of like, hey, you're going to do the right thing, so go do the right thing.
Right.
So I appreciate that very much. But I see a lot of that stuff that's just gotten extremely awkward with things. So essentially then we have them come in. It's the same thing in Division III. They can't get them on the field. We'll go get 3 hours in the morning, but then we're going to do these jog throughs and meetings and everything, when in fact they need the experience of being out in the field to do things.
Right.
But I'm not sure. It goes back to you said there. I don't think coaches can handle doubles now.
Coach, no way. Absolutely not. Because look, just in general, and Dave's worked with me. He knows the type of guy I am. I was raised around, and it's either, to me, it's a benefit, but it could be what I was raised and had such good coaches growing up. I was so spoiled from the time I was in middle school, all the way up. I had coaches that were vested, whether it was because of the town I grew up in, former players coming back to be that or whatever. I just was around high level, intense coaches. Yes. And this is how we did it. And this was this. So when they
knew the line too.
And it was like, hey, we're right there. And they also knew individuals. They knew their
players. Uncle Jerry? Did you have Uncle Jerry? Did you have, you know what I'm talking about?
Who's that?
Did you have Mike Van Zyle's, was it like Uncle
Jerry? Coach Crean?
Yeah.
Coach Crean was, so when I was young, when I was like middle school coming up, he was the guy, right? And my father was from town, right? He played, this is the world I grew up in. So Coach Crean would be there. Coach Van Zyle would be I saw the player to dad to the whole family, right? So, I mean, these guys
built everybody's house there, for crying out loud.
Yeah, it was. I mean, look, Coach Tepper was my neighbor, my backyard guy. You know what I'm saying? It's like what we did, but the coaches there, it was so this is what it's all about, right? And then high level, they taught you higher level stuff. When I got to college, I looked around at some of these guys, and these guys had no clue what the coaches were talking about, and we're like, all right, this is normal. Right. I don't think nowadays you have coaches that are willing to invest into it, what you need to get done. You don't see these guys trying to get better, going to clinics or doing this. The only thing they want to do is post stuff on social media so that they can get all these clicks. Everybody wants to be a one-on-one type trainer. Nobody wants to listen to somebody else. I mean, these are parts of the process that, dude, you're an assistant coach for a reason. You may have a dream of being a head coach, but this is kind of how you have to go through it. So be the best coach you can be doing what that coach is asking you to do. And now your players see that and respect that. Well, and I think that's really hard.
If you know anyone who wants to be a head football coach, all right, have them talk to me, and I'll talk them out of it in 5 minutes.
I tell people the same thing, dude. You might love this,
but you
don't want to do this.
First of all, you remember the Rampo job came open, right?
Right.
So some bozo,
yeah, you were supposed to be one of the guys, bro.
Some bozo says something about it. So I don't know this, right? I'm not reading this social media stuff, and
I paid my $1 so I could read content.
I don't even get the daily throwaway, the Bergen record anymore. You know, I mean,
That's why I have to send Dave this stuff because, like I said, I'm the only one with access to the media.
I don't have access.
He clicks on stuff and says, "Say
I don't
99."
I don't even get the physical paper and then the other stuff. So I come in because like, wow, coach, you're looking at the Rambo job.
Yeah, because
I
you
said, like,
threw your name in there.
I said, first of all, I said, if I had an interview with Rambo, I said, first, I'm never going to give me an interview. I said, we've played them a whole bunch of times. Gosh, they're so good. I said, well, somehow we've beaten them a few times, which is always a funny story on how we've ever beaten them because I can't figure it out. In fact, the last time we beat them in 2022, I told the kids, if we played these guys 100 times, we'd lose 101. All right.
You can get them every now and then.
Well, we get them, right? So I said, they said, what would you even want to know about the job? I said, I'd ask them one question. I said, and then let them talk. I said, how the heck did you ever lose us? How'd you ever lose us? I said, I mean, look at your team. Look at this, you know, and the field just tilts. The talent is totally different. And they're so blasted good. And I can't figure it out. But, you know, guys are like, well, why don't you interview for other jobs? I said, I don't want this job. I don't want this job.
And really, all it takes is because I can remember, like, when I saw it, and I always bring out, like, Dave, I was like, you know, I'm Dave. I just fill David because he's got so much going on. Right. I just keep him in the loop so that he kind of has a clue, right, when it comes to the scoop or whatever. And I said, hey, your buddy's mentioned in the Ramapo gig. He goes, he ain't going there. I said, yeah, but I bet you his phone's ringing now.
Oh, God. I said, are you serious? First of all, I guess I could look pretty good in green, you know what I mean? But I just share.
Aaron White went and did it.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, my mother used to say to me, if you can remove morality from decision making, it's pretty easy. You know?
But I also look at that, something like that too, right? That just tells you the state of like the world, like our coaching world here. Like a Ramapo job opens up. That there should have been, you know what I mean? Like that would have been like who's who
gold
of,
rush.
Like, let me go get that.
But there's no teaching jobs. I mean,
that's why the other guy left. You got Morangi now on the other side.
It doesn't seem like they can really get it together in that. I mean, imagine if they did. God forbid they did.
And Coach, what did you say earlier? It comes from where?
It comes from the top.
There you go.
It comes from the top. I don't even know. They have, you know, it's a confused area. We had a great superintendent forever here. I mean, this guy Pat Fletcher, and I work with him at Glen Rock. I mean, and most of our disagreements we had were my fault without question. He had to set me straight sometimes. You know, I mean, it would be like,
that's his job.
I want to do this. He says, you can't do this, but I want to do this. You know, I'm your boss. I said, okay, so we'll do what you want me to do. All right. And now we have
inside my texture.
And now we have another guy. We have Dr. Jim Albro, who was a football coach at one time in his life. You know,
Jim Albro, yeah.
Yeah, he's our superintendent. So
wow, you know, that's phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, we've always had, you know, good people around there. I mean, even though as Dave knows, I got fired in 2007 twice. All right, do that before the season, right? I got fired twice as a teacher, but I got more lives than a cat. So
DJ
did land on your feet.
DJ did one of the most brilliant places. DJ did one of the most brilliant moves. You could say all the things you want about the 2017 and how great it was, but before the season started, after almost getting fired because you had hired me, and you're like, well, I don't know if I'm going to be the coach anymore. You know, like I'm like, wait, what? So, but
you're like this might happen.
But he did one of the most brilliant moves. It was good. Everyone knew that this team was going to be at least pretty good, right?
Really good,
yeah, at least pretty good. But there was a whole thing about the captains, right? Who's going to be the captains? And DJ came in there. He said, all this stuff's going on. You know, captain, who's going to be the captain? All the seniors are captains. Every single one of you are captains. And then I think maybe game day you brought out.
Like, no, I said to him, I said, you can pick.
Okay, here you go.
This is a great story because you can pick the game you want to go out for the coin toss. Say like, we got this game, that game. And one kid didn't pick anything. And we get to the 12th game, which is the sectional final, and we're at the stadium. And I'm like, okay, the captains. And a kid named Shane Fowler stands up. He says, my game. I've been waiting for this.
Nice.
He never said he was going to be the game captain, and he was the game captain in the final.
Good for
weighed-
him.
Shane Fowler. Love him. The Fowler brothers. Ah,
players. I mean, but
they were tough. They were tough.
what from the heart guys, you know? I mean,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
They're
No.
so I would say that incredibly tough kids at Riverdale. We have really
Yeah, that's the one thing, Coach, that I've like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like that's that gritty type of Bergen County, like
Yeah.
punch you in the mouth, little blue
Yeah.
collar, kind of like we are Butler, Morris County. I really kind of comparable
Yeah.
type kid.
we get a tough kid, and you know, it's a coach. I tell you a funny story. We're playing Par Hills in I think 2019 in the semis.
Albano.
Yeah, he just took the Randolph job. He just took the Randolph job. So Dave's Albano's
Great guy. He's always
coach-
him and Matt. He's a Matt Sakis guy, right? Like
Oh, he's
those
at
guys are.
yeah.
You got Matt Sakis. He's at Jefferson now.
Yeah. So we're playing him. We have a kid who's an offensive tackle. He's a lean kid, typical Riverdale kid. He's kind of 190 pounds, 6'2". All right. Ryan McDonald, really good player. He's actually a senior right now, and I'm still in the track program at Susquehanna. We're you're not gonna believe, Dave. Wyatt's a sophomore in college now. My Wyatt.
Unbelievable.
So he's a sophomore there, and of course he's never met Ryan because he's always in Wyatt's always in the lab. He's a computer science physics guy.
Right.
So, McDonald's playing tackle, and there's a kid from Par Hills who his last name is Thompson. He's playing for Rutgers now, and we played them earlier in the year and we beat them. So in that game, Ryan breaks his hand, so he's playing with the club whole season. Right before we play the semifinal, he gets the club off. So we're playing them, and this kid Thompson's putting moves on him on the edge. He's a beast. He's a great player. All right, smart, physical. All right, got a lot of reps because Dave started him as a sophomore. I mean, and Ryan's like a 1.5 year starter. So Ryan's like whiffing on moves that aren't even being made. It's like he doesn't know what to do, right? So Ryan comes off the field, and we're in the middle of this tight game. He says, "Coach, can I ask you a question?" I said, "Sure, Mac. What do you got?" He says, "Do you think I got better this season?"
Nice.
And I said, "Yeah, you got better." He says, "Because that guy got a lot better." So that's what we get. But here's a stat. Here's a stat for you, Dave. In 20 years at Riverdale, we've had 14 different football players throw a shot over 50 feet.
That's
Really?
amazing. That's amazing.
That's the
Who,
difference.
who threw the farthest? Trask?
Well, no. Sean O'Neill threw 56 feet as a junior.
Sean did. Okay.
56 feet. I can tell Sean O'Neill stories all day.
Ah, he's the greatest.
He threw 56 feet as a junior from a standstill. And then
he didn't glide or he punched it?
No, he's wearing his Jordans, same ones he wore to his prom. All right. So anyway, he kind of just like would run across circles. He only been throwing for like 3 weeks. Throws 56 feet. His senior year, the school claimed he was ineligible, so he wasn't able to compete. So he threw 56. We had a kid, Andrew Tamino, who was a fullback D lineman kid. Andrew Tamino threw 58.
Oh, wow.
He was the captain of the throwing team at Monmouth.
There you go.
And then Asim Green, who was ineligible his senior year, he threw 58, I think, indoors his senior year.
Was that your D tackle that you had?
Yeah. He played against you guys and was just a road grader against Ramco the next year in a final. But all kinds, John Farrelly's son did. Some kids, Ryan was
Farrelly. I miss Farrelly.
Ryan didn't make that list. That's right. He threw like 48 and then he got COVID.
Oh.
They had the COVID season senior year in track. Couldn't throw in the spring. But we had the other kid, Josh Yonsei, who's playing up at Colby, another one of the guys. But there's a whole.
That's a great place to be right now too.
Yeah, and I'll give you two other guys, Matt Coe.
Okay.
Because, and again, I could say this on a podcast. Our demographics changed dramatically. We're 25% Asian now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we're 15% Hispanic, and we're growing Middle Eastern population.
Wow.
So it's a real immigrant population. Boy, do these kids work, and they love playing football. They love doing everything, and they're not afraid to fail, and they give you everything. But Matt Coe was the first kid that we had who was in that ethnic group. All right, and he threw the shot well over 50 feet. He has his own He runs his own unit at Mount Sinai Hospital in the
Wow.
radiology department.
There you go.
And then
That's
Jay
big time.
Choi. Jay Choi is one of the best athletes I've ever coached. He played up at Ithaca, and he not only got his doctorate from Ithaca in physical therapy, he's passed his boards. He's a doctor of physical therapy at 25, 26 years old.
See, that's the part that I love. I love seeing
Yeah.
guys do better, right? Like, look,
Yeah.
football's great, wins and losses are great,
Yeah.
but man, like, we're not all going to the NFL. And like,
No.
now that you can just come back, you're doing things with your life, it's positive. Like, that's where I get the most joy out of it.
Right.
When I
And-
see those guys doing great.
Our throwing coach is still the same guy. He's 80 years old. Lou Saragnano. He's fantastic. His tone with his kids. He's got the drive. We all tell about the funny thing when Lou talks to his kids about throwing. After a meet, he'll have 3 kids in front of him. He'll say PR, which means personal record. He'll say PR, 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 and he'll get to the 4th kid. He'll say PU. All right. but yeah, it's just kind of like a unit. So we've gotten kids to do that. Austin Berger was a starter up at Utica. He's working in cybersecurity now. He was a 55-foot thrower. So that's always been a good thing. I think we got some guys that are going to get there again not this year, next year. We have a good thrower. Doesn't play football. A good kid. Decided not to play football. I wish he did. But we have some more of those kids. So, that's always been the connection you're talking about. So that's the difference in the 2 high schools.
Yeah.
Is Glen Rock, it's actually 3 hours. Glen Rock had the speed, the athletes. Walkill Valley had essentially I guess no better term, like the mountain kid who was running around fishing and hunting. So they just had all that twitch that only gets developed by running around, not a personal trainer sense. And then you got these kids who are just pretty powerful kids, even the small kids. Like, just we don't get into 3 lift totals too much except for themselves. That's a big thing for the kids. But we got to run them back. Another Lanza whose 3 lift total will be around 1,000 pounds next week.
Wow.
Between, hang clean, and he's a deep squat kid in bench pressing. Not that that's everything, but we put standards.
No, but that's a very big part and a key component, especially when you're talking about guys that might not be a certain way.
Well, I'll tell you where it's big. For the kid that was a 550 guy, we were talking about this kid Conroy we had years ago when he's a freshman, 480 guy. His 3 lift total as a freshman in the
development, spring. Man. It's about development.
820 guy in the summer before his senior year, and just made himself into a football player and ended up being a starting lineman, for us. And I think that's so important, and I think that's why that stuff's important. The perimeter kids have kind of come up with something, whether it's wide or it's inside, I really don't care as long as it's extended. Our perimeter guys, the deal is if you're a perimeter guy, you got to be able to do 30 pull-ups.
Well, I'll tell you it's so interesting how the overall training program is so big. First of all, not just teamwork is a big part of it, like getting in there with the team. But I remember, at Riverdale, the 2007 with the line we had, the 6th lineman. I say this all the time. The 6th lineman was O'Neal.
Right.
I was so smart as a line coach that the Division One
player didn't play.
was our 6th guy. He was the 6th guy to go in.
Right, you were feeling it out. You were kind of feeling it out.
Next year, by the way, his brother Ryan has become a high-level power lifter.
Oh, Ryan. Oh,
Ryan.
He was from the first year. He was a great athlete, Ryan.
Yeah. So we had those kids, and we're trying, we're a different product now, but I think that's, again, what Derek's talking about, scrubbing your roster, finding those things.
That's it, man.
And not, not being a dial on offense or dial on defense, but I think you really got to invest in that. And, I don't know if I helped you guys with anything you did today. I know you got to edit the hell out of this thing, but.
Oh, no, it was great. Yeah. This was great.
No, we don't. Hey, buddy, we don't very much editing. We just clip and go. Like, it is what it is.
We clip and go. We do almost zero editing. So this is how we do it. We do zero editing. We clip it up. There's no I have to use I use like some sort of technology because I'm not good at it. So I put it in this little system, clips it up, and then we put it back out there. But we do. I always say like, oh, do you edit the show? Like I've had guys come on.
Guys get nervous.
Hey, can you edit this out? I said we do zero editing. There's zero editing on our podcast.
Right.
It's as raw as it is, and but but that's the fun part about it. Is like I really, first of all,
And look,
I like that you coming on.
I mean,
You've set the record, by the way, DJ. So
Yeah.
we have to give you a round of applause because at 2 hours and how many minutes is it? Because I'm blind. 2 hours and 3 minutes. You have set the record. Who did he eclipse though? Did he eclipse Tony?
Tony. He got
I think it was Tony. So
Tony would have been in like we weren't even into the 19. We didn't even.
I don't think we got it in the 80s. So Tony,
we were still
a 6-hour podcast.
Yeah, I mean that's what I said. Like if you guys started asking questions about that, I'm like okay, but because I guess I'm a storyteller. So I mean, but I have.
I mean, look, we've had Jerry Gallagher, right? We've had Coach Sadlock, right? We've had some of these guys that come on, and they're all, they're
great.
excited.
But I'll tell you, I know I'm more entertaining.
It is what it is, man.
You're more entertaining. Who should be the round table? Like when we add a fourth person, we should have DJ and Tony at the same time.
I would like that.
That would be great. We should do that.
He's great. I mean,
I'll close this up all the time. Like, can we get back on? I'm like, Tony, we'll get you back. We're going to get you back on. We want to get you back. But Tony, I don't think Tony we got out of – we didn't get out of because
he was still up
Jimmy Valdano used to coach with him at Iona.
Yeah,
so
he was still up there.
We got 6 degrees of separation because when Valdano made his killing in Iona, those were all Long Island kids.
Yes.
Yeah, the Rulin, the Vickers brothers, Kevin Hamilton, all those guys are Long Island guys. So that's when I was just about getting into high school. We were going through that. Somebody's asking about the guys that were out there because Long Island's a different breed, as you know. The guys, the basketball players. Yeah, Boomer Esiason and I went to different high schools together. He went to East Islip, played at like real football, and I went to Miller Place and played fake football. All right, but
that's all right. As long hey, you can long snap, so you were good.
That's right. I'll give you my last Long Island trivia. Long Island hands out an award for the best football player every year in Suffolk County. It's called the Hanson Award. Boomer did not win that.
Oh,
really?
The Yastrzemski Award is given to the best baseball player. Craig Biggio didn't win that.
That's wild.
Biggio won the Hanson.
Wow.
Esiason won the
Biggio is my guy.
And Esiason won you to Yastrzemski?
He won the Yastrzemski Award.
Oh.
There's only one guy that's ever won both, and it's not me. All right. It is a guy named Kevin Baugh, who was a punt return receiver at Penn State, who unfortunately died pretty young, like 42. But Kevin was a Deer Park kid. Craig Biggio is, I think, 5 years behind me, football-wise. Esiason and I are same year, and Kevin Baugh's a year younger.
Well, listen, I just had
Long Island is the land of Jim Brown.
Jim Brown, Julius Erving. All right, we got a lot of guys. Mitch Kupchak, Jeff Rowland.
Remember last spring?
Vinny Testaverde.
Vinny Testaverde.
Yeah.
Boomer and his crew did that flag game when they came up to SJV and played those guys. So I was watching Boomer still slinging around a couple of last year, man. It was incredible.
I played a summer league basketball game against him. And back then guys weren't as heavy, but you could just see he was going to be a really big guy.
Yeah.
What an athlete. And I still think his favorite sport is hockey. I swear it's his favorite sport is hockey. He always talks about hockey. But
I'm telling you,
it's a little different out there. I'm a baby boom kid, so there were just so many kids out there at that time,
that wanted to do sports.
Well, there were just a lot of us. There were just so many human beings.
Do you ever get out there anymore or no?
Nah, you know what? Since I had to settle the estate and everything and do that with my folks.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the same feel. Usually when you're going out there for those things, guys, as you guys get older, it's usually for those types of things where you're paying your respects to somebody or something like that. So it kind of stinks. But
my 6th grade teacher was a Long Island guy, and I'm telling you, like, he introduced me, like, was like, would talk about lacrosse, would talk about this, and it was just kind of like, it was a new eye-opening experience for me at Butler, and he still teaches there. Like, now he's.
I mean, I grew up with
Waldwick.
Yeah, I grew up with dirt roads and stuff. When we first moved, we were living in a much more populated area, and so it was in the middle of nowhere, and it was, it was very rural. So you kind of had to make your fun. It was probably more pure, but So I mean,
that's
look,
just how it is.
There's, tri-state areas, a lot of good players. You see that in what you guys do, bringing kids together. It's tougher and tougher because I think when the kids get in front of you now, it's not the opportunity they're looking for.
Nope. It's their choice most of the time.
It's the gimme. It's that.
Wait, what do you mean? I deserve this, or I should
Yeah.
have that, or why
Yeah.
am I? Why am I in second place? Like, how come
Yeah.
he's got an offer and I don't have an offer?
Well,
come
they
he's
also don't
going
understand. They don't understand there's a transcript involved too.
Yeah. Like,
And-
buddy, if you don't have a 3.3 now, you ain't going anywhere.
Yeah. And look, it's so hard. I mean, to get that point across, and the love of football. So, who knows? I mean, I'm not running away from it now. I mean, I'm not doing that, but I'm just starting to look at it and kind of
different viewpoint.
Yeah, I'm wondering who's going to stay in there. I mean, Jim Kerr's retired from Glen Rock. He's 44.
I
45.
saw that.
I told you that, Dave. What did I tell you? The other
I
day?
was shocked.
Yeah.
I said, bro,
So young.
Listen, look at how many we had.
I know.
The Shore Conference is a good old boy club, bro. Like, and these
Right.
guys, there was more jobs open down here this year. I think there was like 6 or 7.
The most ever.
You're talking about guys like 30 years. I mean, and programs like Shore Regional, 30-something years, Cosentino, Mid-South with Antonucci. Guys been there, tons of success, and guys are just like, I'm good.
But, those guys are there quite some time. I mean, so,
Yeah.
but I think Jim just started getting hit with, hey, we're going to have a class of 7 moving in next year. Another class of 7. I mean, did you ever think Cresco would be a co-op?
No, I know.
Remember when we were talking
Bob
about that?
Valley.
I mean, look, who Midland
Legend.
Park too. They're a co-op.
Even
right?
Kevin Quinn.
Kevin Quinn's a legend. Kevin
He's a
Quinn's a
great
legend.
coach. I mean, you could look at it. Park Ridge, I understand, has really low numbers coming in.
And they're winning, and they're having trouble.
Yeah, and they
For
have
now,
been. Hasbrook
Emerson-
Heights has a new person.
Yeah, Emerson barely has a program. They're playing with Cresco. I mean, that doesn't seem like a normal match. And
No.
But
Billy-
when I was at Powell Park, that it's funny because when we went JV the second year, when did that move, and I mean, when I say I caught flack for that, but it was the best thing for the program at the time. But I said you guys think that this is like a one-off, like this is like that we're the only ones that can. In time, you're going to see all these guys, because I would talk to Bob and we would play them, and I would, even Delcazo, and he was at his height during that time.
Yeah.
Even then, he was having a hard time, and that's obviously Hasbrook Heights I always said is in the sweet spot of Southern Bergen County. Like they're, they although it's evolved a little bit because of the Parkway, but they used to be the place that had a little more money than most of the other people, and so they had a little bit better system than a lot of other places in Southern Bergen County. But he was having issues when he was at his height. When we were playing him, they're winning over and over and over again, and we were having a couple of those really good battles. He would tell me that like he's having a hard time, and he had Bear as his Bear was his OC, the guy from head coach.
Yeah, now he's at Ramsey.
He had a great staff, and they were having a hard
the only
time.
team
Those
in
guys
New
were all
Jersey traveling to Florida to play this year, to be honest.
What's that?
Ramsey and Bear up there. He's the only team in New Jersey traveling out of state to Florida this year.
Oh,
as a public.
I didn't even know that. Yeah, so I mean, it's the small schools have I don't when they did it initially, it was because Saddlebrook used to be a Group 2, a 1,200. It was like when you grew up, right? The boom time. That was
One of the
boom
smallest
time.
places I ever was.
Now those halls are empty. Saddlebrook, what is there? 300 kids in the school?
Come on, the middle school and high school are together.
Well, I think here's what you're going to see, and this is going to be right on target. You're going to have to make a choice. The co-op thing is one thing. You're going to see people either dropping football. I think their best solution is go full pad 6-man football. I think that's the best. So the school would have some kind of
like in Texas or in Iowa. Yeah,
but we're not.
Like those Midwest schools do it.
It's not a community thing. We're not a community based or a communal based society anymore.
No.
And the last thing you're gonna say is high school football up here. We can talk about all the Super North stuff you want. High school football up here at the small schools has been completely rescued by Charlie Voorhees, who's the AD at Seahawks, who somehow does this origami type thing and comes up with how we can get these teams to play a schedule, make it competitive, because he has saved football.
Absolutely.
100%.
But he's going to run out of tricks.
That's what I'm saying. You can only do this. You can only juggle for so long before a ball's going to fall.
Right.
I mean, look, you almost saw it this year. St. Mary's gets in the playoffs. They played DePaul. That's okay.
Harrison just dropped football.
He did it with Ray Lucas as the coach.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry,
Legendary.
buddy.
You know, it's interesting because I remember being in that meeting. It was right before I took the Red Bank job. I was there for Indian Hills, and I remember you asked me to speak about the Ivy League thing that they ended up adopting, and you asked me to speak about what it was like in Indian Hills. And I remember Drew Gibbs was there, and it was the first time Drew, because usually Drew would fight back on stuff like that because we're across town, you're going after the same players, all that kind of thing. But obviously they were the halves.
That's going to end too.
Yes, but that was the first time I saw Drew actually, after I was talking, it's say what, I can understand.
Like, I get it.
Well, I get why this could be an issue, right? Because obviously he'd be at the youth games. Listen, I had to be there 30 minutes before Drew got there because as soon as Drew got there, everybody walked over to him. So I need some time for people to come and shake my hand because as soon as Drew walked in, obviously Drew had won and had all the success he had and was obviously a phenomenal coach, right? But it was the first time, and I knew, like, I remember I went to Lorenzo Barada and I said, if I know I'm leaving, but if you
what can I do?
Anything, if you do one thing, you must go in this Ivy League to have a chance.
Yep.
And because then the kids aren't worried about like what they have over there versus what we have over here. They can just go and find a place where they're going to get on the field and not worried about getting their butts whooped, right? And it's honestly, it saved Indian Hills. Unfortunately, they ran out the guy that did a great job with it, who was my assistant, Dom.
And now you look. Now they got
they ran him out.
My guy.
Now they got what's his name? Yeah,
Joe's. Like,
he's a good coach. He's a great coach, but he's a great coach, and I'm happy for him because he's a great coach. But what they did to Dom wasn't fair because Dom slowly but surely built up the program.
Yeah, and now how do you get rewarded? See ya.
Well, it was just, and that's what's going on. Dom was an Indian Hills kid. He actually, when I said Lorenzo, I said, "Hey, this is an Indian Hills kid. He wants Indian Hills to succeed.
He cares.
This guy cares. He's not going to be as knowledgeable as I am, but he's going to care, right? So take the time, let him evolve." And he did. Lorenzo did great. And then he ended up going to obviously Old Japan, but he let him evolve. And then, he gets kicked out because he's not winning. He won six games, I think, this year, or for the first time. They've won more than they lost in a long time. And he gets kicked out. But that's what's going on.
You see it all over the place. Everybody's guys are getting pushed out for the next new shiny penny.
That has to change in New Jersey because you go to the South, because I've been to every place in the South. I've been everywhere. I've been all over the country. California's just such a big state, and football succeeds because there are haves and have-nots. And
of course,
it's a huge state. That California's different, but
very much. That's why we just leave them. We just leave them alone.
The rest of the South, Texas, Florida, Georgia. You know what? The one thing that maybe not Florida as much taking care of a coach, but Georgia, South Carolina, Texas, coaches may get run out for if they lose at the bigger schools, but they are compensated as the offensive coordinator teaches a few classes, but he's got a full-time gig. The head coach is full-time as a coach and maybe does like a general class, but they're compensated to be able to be invested in football for the long run.
Yep.
And so when people say, why is the South so far? Yes, obviously there's talent in the South. Yes,
and they get spring ball and they're allowed to do these things, but you're taking care of your coaches.
Well, my thing is overall is that they are invested in having football succeed. And my only issue in New Jersey, and whether you like the parochial thing or don't like the parochial thing, public school, what has happened in public schools as a whole, the model that you came in at, teacher coach, right? And maybe eventually becomes the administrator and becomes, the principal. That model has gone away a lot more, right? And now the model is professional administrator. Okay, this is not everywhere, but professional administrator, detached from what goes on in athletics and the value. And obviously, I'm talking about football, but this probably has something to do with maybe all the sports. Okay, detached from the success and community, as you said, that sports has on the school. And the sports has, I don't care what people say. Listen, the reason why I say Saddlebrook and reason why, although my father didn't tell me till I was 49 years old that I could have went to St. Joe's for free. But the reason why, I wanted to go to Saddlebrook, I wanted to be there is because my friends were there. I played with my friends. The teachers, I knew who the teachers were. I knew because they had been there for a long time. And whether they were good coaches or bad coaches was really irrelevant. It was they were there for you, right? Good coaching was honestly, them being great coaches was always considered a bonus. Like the fact that my father was really good coach was a bonus, right? The fact that you were a great coach was really a bonus. But the real truth was you're there for the kids, and that thing has gone away. And I don't know every state, but in New Jersey, it's starting to go away. And I think that part affects football, obviously, because it's a community sport more than any other sport. And the South has held on to that much better, even though they're regional schools, maybe, but they've held on to the fact that how else do you have the public schools better than the private schools in Texas? How else do you have that? Because in those towns, it's important. It's still something for people to be involved in. And, as long as you're the coach at Riverdale, that continue to be involved. But I worry about when you're no longer the coach at Riverdale, what will it be like?
Come on down here, buddy. I'll get you an administrator job. We'll figure it out. Let's go.
No. This will be the last head coach in rodeo, and then the assistant.
That's what I'm saying. You don't gotta do that. You come when you show up when you want to show up. I got you.
I don't know. I think I look at it and hope for the best. I think what you're trying to do in terms of growing younger coaches, or even the kids that are in the program, do they want to be teachers and coaches? Do they want to? Up here they're going to say no. I mean, do they want to become officials? Do they want to be involved in the game?
Oh hell no.
Yeah, I don't see that skin in the game. I mean, you can keep pushing it, but when you do sit down with coaches and say, look, the job's a job. These are the things that you need to do. All right. And you kind of get to look at them like, well, what do you mean? I said, like, then you have to feel like too much of the patriarch is saying, now you have to be here.
Yep.
But I'm not getting paid. I said, I know that, but I'm not. How many years I didn't get paid? But they're not me. They're not me. They're being told at home that you got to be at home. And I'm saying, but you don't have any problem with 2 mortgage payments that you're making. But the job's a job. It's something you got to be passionate about. You can't go halfway in this. Is my
right.
No. And as a coach, you can't be a piecemeal general either. You can't be like, okay, we can do a little of this, a little of that. The kids see right through that. You're making great demands on yourself and the kids. As far as the kids go, you might have kids telling you. I have a kid told me the other day that one kid's not playing because his mom doesn't like the program. Oh, what am I supposed to say? I don't like the mom. I mean, I don't even know this woman. I mean,
in-home visits.
Yeah, I mean, if you've never met me, then you.
Yeah, how can you dislike what we're doing?
Yeah, once you meet me, I know you'll not like me.
But at least now you can say I met him and I don't like him.
Yeah, my bag of friends is full. I mean, like, I guess you're not gonna. People say, well, that's why he's not playing. So, okay. I mean,
you're like that. Okay, that's fine. That's okay.
Yeah, because you just want the half-wit stuff going on. So,
half in, half that. I just want to be there so I can get my picture in the yearbook and get my letter, and then we're good.
And I wonder about the people that want to come. Who's really staying coach? Like, Joe Klaus is a lifer. And Joe Klaus is a lifer. People really wanted to make their football program better when there's an opening. They'd find a way to make it economically feasible for them, but they don't.
That's amazing to me. It's amazing.
But he might be in the best. Now the guy from Demers is going to Rampo. They're going to talk. That's Joe's business. I mean, and who's the next guy at every place? Like, who comes after Jim? Is there a guy inside at Glen Rock? I mean, are they going to hire somebody from the outside that's really qualified?
I mean, but look, we talk about this all the time because, on the scoop, you're looking at job movement and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. Like, even in the high school level, like guys are being pushed to do a lot of things. And like you said, all it takes is one little parent to go in there and start wrestling feathers. And then before you know it, guys aren't in the building or tenured like they used to be. Head coaches aren't the ADs or administrators that are protecting those coaches or on their side. Now you got a guy in a shirt and tie telling you, like, do this in your classroom, but like, hey, I need you to fight for me with this, and they don't want any part about it, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. So, you know, I mean, you're still trying to find kids. You know, you got to get, it's a volume sport. You got to get numbers, and you got to get kids to fill the fields. You got to get kids to fill the fields, and that seems to be more and more of a struggle. But you know, we're ready to go. I mean, I'm looking forward to this season with this group.
Nice balance. Yeah, bring back a quarterback that's got 10 starts. That's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, the schedule's not fun, but I mean, you know, for what we are now, I mean, it'll give you our schedule. We're going to open with Nutley, which
I was just gonna look it up.
Should be a more comparable game. Maybe it won't be.
Yeah, talk about the socioeconomics and dynamics of a town that's changed.
Yeah,
you just look to Nutley.
Yeah, and then we get Old Japan, Paramus, Par Hills right in a row.
Oh, baby.
And then we get, I think a better Morris Hills team. I think he played a lot of young kids.
We just had a kid at our showcase the other night that was a pretty good player from Morris Hills.
Yeah, Morris Hills, and then we go Bergenfield, Teaneck, and then we get Pascack Valley, Westwood right at the end.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so, and there's those are rivalry type games, and you know, it's but you're playing one at a time. You prepare. We have no gripes. We need to play the schedule. That's a fair schedule.
Right, that's the schedule.
That's the schedule. It's a fair schedule. It's more than fair. All right, and we got to play better. We got to prepare better. So we look forward to it.
Well, Coach, it's been amazing having you on. We look. Yeah, I mean, this has been. We got to have you back on at some point.
Oh yes, we do.
We owe you 2 hours of your time too.
Okay. I'm a retired teacher.
Yeah, look,
so
and there ain't that 2-week assignment was nice. Check. See you later. Bye, guys.
You know what they said to me? There's a woman going on maternity leave and I just said no. I said I don't want to do that. Because you know maternity leaves get crazy.
They get wild because you got people like, this is my class, this is that.
Well, I worry about that. You know, let's hope everything goes well with the baby.
Oh yeah.
A lot of times they don't come back.
They don't come back. You know, and then I'll be sitting there holding the bag, thinking like, oh, now I can't leave the kids. You know.
Yep.
But I can convince myself to leave the kids. I think at this point. You know?
Yeah, I think you've done your due diligence, Coach. I think you got it in there. You're okay.
Well, I appreciate it, guys. I hope you have a great day.
Coach, thank you so much.
Thanks for coming on.
Appreciate it. Thanks for everything.
Talk soon. Bye
bye. Let me get all right. That was great. That was a fantastic spot. I'm going to close it real quick because we've been out a long time. That was a phenomenal pass. New world record for us. 2 hours and 26 minutes. We'll leave it on that. And
I could have talked to. Him and I could have talked 2 hours on run and shoot.
Maybe we actually get a podcast just on the run and shoot. And but
we got it. That would be great. What a day! What an awesome day! That was
an awesome day. Awesome day. All right. Till next time.
All right.
You get all the nuggets here, baby.
You get everything. And
coaches,
we don't sugarcoat shit.
Till next time.